Chapter 131. However, after the blow, Captain Li's mood was obviously much better. He sat down next to Su Qianxi and asked kindly, "Qianxian, did Siqing bully you?" "No, he was very nice to me." "Very nice?" "Humph." Captain Li glanced at Li Siqing. Seeing Li Siqing's calm face,
Chapter
he said with
134.
disdain,
Hearing
"You think I don't know what kind of
Jing
person
Hao's
he
words,
is?"
Tang
Tang Mei
Hotel
was
for
even
more than a
more
month
scared if he was
Tang
nice to you.
Minjing quickly
Qin
stood up
Shuhua
and
and Li
explained,
Beixing had
"What
not heard
child?"
about this.
Qianxi,
Hearing what
are
Captain
you
Li
mistaken?
said, they were
Her
both
eyes were
startled
full of warning.
and looked at Li Siqing.
This was not the first
However,
time Su Qianxi
Li
had
Siqing
met
did
Tang
not seem to
Minjing,
notice
and they had
that
been
he
best
had become the
friends.
focus of
How could
attention.
Su Qianxi
He took a
not
teacup from the
understand
table and
what
slowly
Tang
sipped.
Minjing was trying
You
to
stayed
say?
in a hotel,
However,
for more than a
Su
month.
Qianxi
Did you
not
fight?
seem to
Li
understand at
Beixing
all,
and Qin
looking
Shuhua
confused.
asked at the same time.
That's not right.
One seemed to have
clearly
expected
remember,
it, and the other
Su
looked a bit
Qianxi-
complicated.
Mrs.
Su
Tang
Qianxi
could
looked
not
up
help it either.
at Qin Shuhua.
Don't make up stories.
She did not know if it was an
I will
illusion,
tear your mouth apart.
but she saw a
Su
trace of
Qianxi
relief in
immediately
Qin Shuhua's
shut her
eyes.
mouth,
Su
as if she was
Qianxi's heart
scared.
sank. However,
Qin Shuhua
no one
was
to see was
probably
stupid.
still thinking of
Seeing
Tang
them like
Minjing
this,
as her
Tang
daughter-in-law.
Jinghao knew there must
Brother
be something
Siqing,
wrong.
you're back too?
Tang
A
Jinghao
soft voice came
looked
from the
gloomy.
door.
As a
Mr.
retired
and Mrs.
Special
Tang
Forces
walked in with
soldier
Tang
and an
Minjing
experienced
and
businessman,
Tang Mengqing,
of course, smiling.
He could tell that they
Seeing
wanted
Li
to protect
Siqing,
Tang Mengqing.
Tang Minjing
and it was their
pleasantly
attitude that
surprised.
proved Su
However,
Qianxi
when
was
such a
telling the
surprise
truth.
was met
You
with
got
a
pregnant.
bucket of cold
Tang
water,
Jinghao
even Tang
suppressed the
Minjing
anger in
could
his
not
heart
help feeling
and
a
looked
bit
at his
embarrassed.
youngest daughter.
Seeing this,
Tang
Jinghao
Jinghao
immediately
and
tried to
subconsciously
help.
hid behind
He looked
her
at Li
sister,
Beixing and
not
said,
daring to speak.
"Beixing, you are
Tang
finally
Minjing
back."
glared at Su
"How long will you be
Qianxi
back this time?"
and quickly hid her
When
sister
Tang
behind her
Jinghao
back,
was young,
saying,
he was
"Dad,
also a special
don't- yes
forces
or no?"
soldier.
However,
Tang Jinghao,
when he retired,
slammed the table,
he gave up the
and
army
burst into
and went
anger.
into business.
Su Qianxi
He had high
did
hopes
not
for Li
expect
Beixing
that Tang
since he was a
Jinghao,
child.
who
The two
usually
families
looked
lived
gentle,
close to each other,
could be so
and for this
intimidating
reason,
when he
Tang
was angry.
Jinghao treated
Tang
Li
Minjing
Beixing
felt
like his own
wrong
son,
and
If
exclaimed
it were not
with
for the
tears in
fact
her
that
eyes,
Tang Minjing,
"Why don't you
like
believe
Li
me?
Siqing,
Do you think
Su
Su Qianxi
Qianxi
would
is
really
telling the
doubt
truth?
that he would
Am I
marry
your
his
daughter,
to
or
Li Siqing?
is Su Qianxi your
3
daughter?"
days, just a short
Mrs.
break.
Tang trembled.
That's not bad.
And quickly
When
stood
I was
up
young,
to protect her daughter.
I only had one
Don't
day,
do this.
and
You
I
were
couldn't even
scaring
go
the child.
home.
Yes,
Tang
Dad.
Jinghao
Mengqing was scared
already
by
in
you.
his 50s.
How about you talk?
A few years
Tang
older
Minjing
than Li
said,
Siqing's
"Can we talk
father,
about it at home?"
and he treated the younger
gestured
generation
around.
of the Li
Tang
family as his own.
Jinghao suppressed
Looking
his
at Su
anger
Qianxi
and looked
he said,
at Su Qianxi.
"Is this the wife of the
Tell me,
second
what's going
son?"
on? Hello,
Su
Uncle
Qianxi
Tang.
felt the gaze
Something
from
flashed
the 3
in
women
Tang
of the Tang
Jinghao's
family,
eyes and felt
and
a
he
bit
smiled.
pleased. Not
Didn't
bad.
they want to hurt her?
Not bad at all.
Then she would strike first.
However, his
and
eyes
see
did
who
not
was
linger
more
on
ruthless.
Su Qianxi,
Hearing
and
Tang
looked at
Jinghao's
Captain Li.
words,
Let's
Su
go.
Qianxi looked
It's been a
bit
long time
embarrassed
since our two
and looked at
families
her
got
mother-in-law.
together. Qin
Hearing
Shuhua
this suggestion,
gently shook her head
Li
at her.
Siqing frowned.
Su Qianxi
glanced at
immediately
Grandpa
understood
and mother,
and said
asked,
apologetically,
"Where to?"
"There may be some
Li Beixing looked
misunderstanding.
confused as well.
I must have mistaken
Qin
you for someone
Shuhua
else."
explained.
"I'm sorry,
Jinghao
Uncle
made
Tang.
plans 2 days
Really?
ago to
Tang
invite the
Jinghao
whole family
didn't
out for
believe
dinner.
it.
Su
However,
Qianxi looked
your
hesitant.
father went to the lower
After looking
district for
around,
inspection.
she nodded
Otherwise,
reluctantly.
we would be
Seeing her
considered
reaction,
two
families.
Tang
Su Qianxi
Jinghao
responded,
already
"That's
had an
right.
idea.
Speaking of
Hey,
which,
you guys go ahead.
How is
This
this
older
man
man
will
will
just
just, it was a
eat it. I
family
heard the
matter
first
after all.
child
I'm not interested
is
in
very
wash your
easy
dirty
youngsters.
linen in
You have to be
public.
careful
However,
since
since
you
you'd
had already
already
said
masterly
so.
insisted
Don't end
on
up in front of a
blackmailing.
Li clan.
Tang
In the end,
Minjing's
they would just
expression
parents of
as
the
a
Chen
misunderstanding
family
went with
Her
the
first
Tang
reaction
Jinghao.
was to stand
It
up
was said
and
that the
cheer.
restaurant was
His
heart
heart
filled with
Tang
rage.
Minjing.
The
When
atmosphere in the
Su Qianxi heard
room
that,
was
she had a
dreadfully
bad
depressing.
feeling.
Sure enough,
After a couple minutes,
as soon as they sat
she felt
down
the
in the
urge to
restaurant,
pee.
Tang
and walked
Minjing
out.
took the
But when he
menu
came out of the
and
bathroom,
asked her to order.
there was already
Su
someone
Qianxi
guarding
took
the
the
door.
menu and looked at it. Oh my, they were all
Chapter
German.
135. Su Qianxi
Chapter
reacted quickly
132.
and caught Tang
Feeling the
Minjing's
gazes
hand.
of the
Tang
three women of the
Minjing
Tang
did not
family.
expect Su
Su
Qianxi
Qianxi
to remain
reacted
so
calm
fast
and turned the menu.
She screamed.
Sitting next to
"You
her,
be
Li
asterisk
Siqing
PCH,
glanced at
you're
her
trying to kill
and
me."
frowned.
That's
His
so
cold
evil.
eyes swept
Su
to
Qianxi's
Tang
face
Minjing
darkened.
like a cold
Hearing
arrow.
that,
Being
Su
stared at
Qianxi
like that,
suddenly
Tang
smiled
Minjing's
and
heart
pushed
raced.
Tang Minjing's
However,
hand away.
she
I was just
pretended
giving you
that
a
she
taste
did
of your
not
own
notice
medicine
it and began to introduce
Seeing
the
Su
history of the
Qianxi
restaurant.
smile,
Tang
Su
Minjing
Qianxi was
"Is this your
even
first time
angrier.
here?
This restaurant
originated from the
shameless
German
mistress.
royal family.
I will kill
After
you.
the introduction,
Su Qianxi's eyes
nodded
nodded
and asked
catching
casually,
Tang Mingqing's hand.
Minjing,
She
do you know
pulled
German?
Tang Mingqing's arm,
Of course.
and pinned her against
Mrs.
the
Tang
sink.
said,
Tang
looking at her
Mingqing
daughter
screamed
and husband
and almost
proudly.
burst into
My
tears.
Tang Minjing
but she
has
did
been
not
famous
stop
for her
talking.
talent
You
since she was a
shameless
child.
woman.
In a
You
family
cheated on
like
me,
ours,
Xiqing.
we
You
have
tried to
very
frame
high
me
requirements
in front of my
for our
father.
children's education.
What did I do to offend you?
She not only knows
Your
German,
whole family
but
has
also
offended me.
English,
Su
Chinese,
Qianxi's eyes
Japanese,
turned
and
cold
French
as she
are
said
compulsory
coldly.
courses.
I will
She
not
could be a
offend
translator
those who do
if
not
she
offend
teaches
me.
any of them.
Besides,
Am I right,
if you were
Jing
clean,
Hao? How could
there was
I
a
have
hint
anything
of
on you?
warning in
Tang
Tang
Mingqing
Mingqing's
was
eyes.
pinned down again.
He seemed to be
and
a bit
cried out in
displeased.
pain.
Ouch,
Mrs.
it hurts.
Tang covered her
Let go of
mouth
me.
as if she had just
Apologize.
realized that she had done
Let
something
go of me.
wrong.
It hurts
Tang
so
Minjing
much.
immediately said,
It's going to break.
Mom,
Apologize.
why are you saying that?
And I will let go
Tang
of you.
Minjing echoed.
I am
That's
sorry.
right.
What did I do wrong?
I heard that Mrs.
Tang
Li was
Minjing
an
was
orphan when
pinned
she was a
against the
child.
sink.
How could she know
Facing the
German?
mirror. Let me order.
Seeing how miserable
Then
she
she took
was,
Su Qianxi's
Tang
menu.
Minjing felt
Qin
even
Shua's
more wrong.
face darkened.
She burst
as
into
the
tears
family
and roared,
echoed. Don't go
each
too
other's
far.
words.
It
What
seems
does
that
that
you want
mean?
your hand to
Mocking
be
her
broken.
daughter-in-law,
Su Qianxi
wasn't
pinned
that a
her
slap
again.
in the face
Feeling
of
the
her family?
excruciating
When Qin
pain,
Shua was about to
Tang
explode,
Minjing
she saw
almost
Su
thought that her
Qianxi's
hand
hand
was going to
and
break.
look at Tang Minjing.
She screamed, "It's okay.
I am sorry."
Then she
I am
handed the
sorry.
menu to Li
I should not have
Xiqing
yelled at
and
you.
said in a voice that was
You
just
asked
right,
for it.
"Honey, Su Qianxi
Look at this
pulled her up
Himalander.
and let go.
Do you want to try
Tang
it?
Minjing,
Su
stretched
Qianxi
her
smiled
wrist,
and
seeing
looked at
Su
Tang
Qianxi going to
Minjing.
wash her hands.
Honey, the two
Tang
words were
Minjing
neither too light
rushed
nor
over
too
and
heavy.
pushed Su
When Li
Qianxi.
Xiqing heard them,
Su Qianxi
his
was
heart
pushed
suddenly
and
fluttered.
hit her head on the
Well,
wall.
he liked
making
that
a thud.
title.
Tang
Looking
Minjing
sideways,
was in a good mood.
Li
and
Xiqing
walked
moved
out.
closer,
feeling
and grabbed
dizzy.
her hand.
Su
Su
Qianxi
Qianxi
felt a throbbing
as he got
pain on her
closer.
forehead.
She clearly
Seeing
noticed
Tang
the
Minjing
difference
was
in the
about to
eyes
walk
around
out.
her.
She
Looking
quickly
up,
grabbed her.
He saw Tang
but his hand was a
Minjing
step
gentle
too slow,
face,
and his
but deep
fingers
in her
could only
eyes,
grab her thigh.
there was jealousy
Tang
and
Minjing
hatred.
was wearing a short
Su Qianxi
chiffon
smiled
skirt,
wider,
thin,
looked down
and
at the menu,
fluffy,
and pointed
Su
at the
Qianxi
dish.
reached
This
under her panties
Thuringer
casually.
Rosbrat
Su
Wustwurst
Qianxi
also
clearly
looks good.
felt her
Would
fingers
you like to order
digging
one?
into her flesh.
Yes.
His fingers were
deep
clawed
and magnetic
down,
voice
and his
rang in
fingernails
her
were
ears,
already covered
and
in
she
beads
suddenly
of blood.
realized that the
Tang
distance between
Minjing
her
felt
and
a
Li
burning
Xiqing's
sensation
was
and
actually
did not
less
realize
than
the
2
pain
centimeters.
until 2 seconds
His warm
later.
breath
Lifting
landed
up
on
her
her
skirt,
face.
she saw
it was
5
soft, glistening
and
bloodstains.
ticklish. Su
Ah,
Qianxi
immediately
blushed. Su Qianxi
and
did not expect her
subconsciously
grab
wanted to stay
to
away
be
from
so
him.
powerful.
However,
Seeing her
when he
coming
sensed
at her
the gazes
again,
around him,
she dodged to the
stopped what he
side.
was doing.
However,
Li Xiqing
her
leaned
head was
closer
even
and
more
whispered,
dizzy, and
she
not
almost
bad at
fell to the
German.
ground.
Much better
She
than
had to
some
yell help.
translators.
Murder.
She was dazed.
Tang Minjing
Was he
was
helping
even
her?
angrier. Sure
Stop
enough,
pretending.
she quietly
Su
looked up at the
Qianxi's
3
body
women of
flashed,
the Tang family,
and she quickly
their
ran
faces
out of the
were
women's
all
room.
gloomy.
Tang
Qin Shua
Minjing caught up with her.
On the other hand,
looking like she would
looked
not
much
stop
better
until she
urged
Su Qianxi.
Hey,
The more
you and your
Su
wife are
Qianxi
taking
ran,
too long to order.
the more dizzy she
Don't let the
became.
outsiders
At a
laugh
corner,
at you. She bumped into someone.
Chapter
Shocked,
133.
Su Qianxi looked up
Li
and saw
Xiqing
that
had
she
a
had
rare
fallen into
smile
a
on
deep
his
pool.
face.
Seeing
Looking
the
up,
obvious
he
bump
glanced at
on
his brother
Su
coldly
Qianxi's
and
forehead.
said,
Li
"Hurry
Xiqing
up and get my
immediately
sister-in-law
became
done.
gloomy
Then you
and
can show
looked
off
at
as
Tang
well."
Minjing.
Li
Who had been
Beixing felt
chasing after
frustrated.
him.
If
His
it was
cold
so
eyes
easy,
made Tang
he would not have had to
Minjing
run
stop
back
in
and
her
forth.
tracks.
Li
Not
Beixing
daring to
became
take another
silent.
step. Turning to look at the Tang family.
Chapter
Tang
136
did not look too
His words,
good,
combined with Li
quietly drinking
Xiqing's
water.
cold aura.
However, based on his
Tang
years of
Minjing
understanding
feel like
of
a
Li
demon
Xiqing,
from hell.
the Tang
Tang
family
Minjing
would have
had
always
fight
known
when they
that
got
Li
back.
Xiqing was not
Okay, that's
someone
it.
to be messed with.
Li Xiqing
but
took
she
the
did
menu
not
from her
expect him
hand
to be this
and
scary.
suddenly thought of
He
something.
couldn't help but
He turned
tremble in
around
fear.
and said,
He stood
"Don't
rooted
let
to
them
the spot,
add mustard and
not
pepper.
daring to move.
You can't eat it."
Hearing that,
Well,
Su Qianxi's
she was
heart
doing
skipped
that.
a beat.
Su
Who gave you the
Qianxi
right
blushed
to
and
bully
nodded.
my wife?
Under everyone's
His heart
gaze,
began to
she
beat
said
faster
shyly, "You
against his
decide."
will.
Okay.
However,
Oh my.
her head
Li
became
Beixing was a bit
dizzier,
angry.
and
He
she
took the
almost
menu
fell
from Li
over.
Xiqing's hand.
He reached out
and asked
and pulled her into his
Mom,
arms.
"What do you want to
Looking
eat?"
down at the bump
Soon,
on her
the
forehead,
Tang family
that was
finished
obviously
ordering,
still
and so did the
growing.
Tang family.
His cold gaze
Seeing
fell
Su
on her
Qianxi
again.
being so
Obviously,
confident,
the man
Tang
did not
Minjing
do anything
felt
to
bad.
her.
Why
But
was this
Tang
woman
Minjing
so
could
could
not
not
stop
Xiqing?
shivering.
If it
Li
were not
Xiqing,
for her,
Mr. Li,
her sister
I
would
feel
be
like
the
throwing
one
up,
marrying Li
leaning
Xiqing.
on him. Unwilling to
Qianxi
give up,
felt weak,
she glanced at
and
her
her
eyelids
sister.
were struggling.
Seeing that
Li
her
Xiqing
expression was
glanced at
normal,
Tang Minjing
she threw a
coldly,
warning look at
giving
her.
her a dangerous
Seeing that look,
which
Tang
made Tang
Minjing calm
Minjing
down.
feel
She knew
even
that her
more
sister
uneasy.
would have a solution.
Carrying the woman in front
However,
of him, when the
Li
dishes were
Xiqing
served,
whispered,
the
"She might have a
humiliating
concussion
plan that
I'll
Tang
take you to the
Minjing
hospital."
and Tang Minjing
Feeling
had
drowsy,
come up with was
Su
completely
Qianxi
useless.
did not say
because they
anything.
thought that
She
Su
put her arms
Qianxi
around his
must
neck
not have seen a word
and let him carry her out
She
of the
definitely
dining
did
room.
not know how
Seeing
to eat
that
German
Tang
food.
Minjing had not
However,
come back for a long
Su
time,
Qianxi's table
and Su
manners were
Qianxi was
impeccable.
gone. Seeing
Ming-Jing
felt a bit
admiring
uneasy.
look.
Mrs.
When she
Tang
came
could
out,
not help
she saw
but
Li
ask
Siqing
Tang
holding
Ming-Jing,
Su Qianxi in
Ming-Jing,
his arms.
did you meet
Her
your
hands were
sister-in-law at the
tightly
gate of your
pinching
school
her
last time?
arms.
However,
Su
she immediately
Qianxi's
looked
eyelids
nervous and
twitched.
asked, "She had a
What's
bad
wrong,
feeling."
Su Qianxi?
Tang
Are you
Ming-Jing
not
heard her
feeling
mother
well?
mention it and
Li Siqing
immediately
glanced
said,
at her.
"What
But
are you
his
talking
eyes
about?"
were cold.
Tang
and sharp.
Ming-Jing pretended to
Keep
be
your family
upset.
in check.
She
If there's
already
a
has
next
brother
time,
Siqing.
don't blame
Don't
me
talk
for being
nonsense.
The
It's
cold
true.
warning
Tang
made
Ming-Jing
Tang
looked
Ming-Jing
unconvinced.
Holding
She had
Su
such a good time with
Qianxi
that
in his
brother
arms.
last time.
Li
I
Siqing
still have
quickly
pictures of
walked
them.
past her.
Her interest
leaving
was piqued,
Tang Ming-Jing
and she
standing
nodded
there,
repeatedly,
dumbfounded.
Yes.
After he was
Mrs.
gone,
Li is with a
Tang
fair-skinned
Ming-Jing
brother.
collapsed
They
on
looked
the
like a good
ground,
match.
as if she had
Pictures.
lost all
Hearing
her
the
energy.
words,
Her
Qin
body
Shuhua
and
frowned
head
and
were covered
asked,
in a cold
"What
sweat.
pictures?"
Not long
Su
after,
Qianxi's heart
Tang
sank
Tang
and looked
Ming-Jing
at
walking
Su
toward
Qianxi.
her.
Li
Tang
Xiqing also
Mingqing
glanced at her,
immediately
his
pouted.
eyes cold
Sis.
and deep. Tang Minjing was still
he turned
in
his
shock
head
and
hearing
said
Tang
slowly,
Mingqing's voice.
"It's just a harmless
She looked
photo
over
shoot."
and asked,
"The angle is not
"Why
bad
are
at
you
all."
sitting on the ground?"
Tang Minjing
"I think
did not expect
I'm in
that
trouble,
he would
boo-hoo."
suddenly speak
She
up
told
for
Su
Qianxi
everything
with his
that had just
personality.
happened.
How could he
especially
possibly
the
speak
fact
up for
that
others?
Su Qianxi
So his
might
relationship
have a
with her
concussion,
was
which
so
made her
good
feel
that he didn't even
uneasy.
care about this
After
kind
figuring
of photo.
out what had happened,
Su said,
Tang Minjing
and
felt
said
even
he
more
Minjing,
threatened by Su
Tang
Qianxi.
Hili. Brother Xiqing actually warned her for that woman. Moreover, she wasn't the only one being warned. The entire Tang family was also being warned. According to Li Xiqing's personality in the past, he would not say something so irrational. Could it be that in just 3 short months, he had already fallen for her? But why? She had been by his side for more than 10 years. Why didn't he have any feelings for her? Impossible, that's impossible. No, I have to get them divorced as soon as possible. The plan to destroy Su Qianxi had to be brought forward. Chapter 137. After Su Qianxi was sent to the hospital, she was diagnosed with a slight concussion. Fortunately, it was not serious. She could go home after a short rest. For the next 2 or 3 days, Li Xiqing asked for leave for Su Qianxi and did not go to school. However, this matter soon reached the ears of the Li family and Tang Jinghao. On the 3rd day of her rest at home, a phone call summoned her back to the old mansion. Not long after she arrived, Tang Jinghao took his daughter to the Li family's house. "Apologize to your sister-in-law," Tang Jinghao said sternly. Tang Mingqing looked aggrieved. Her eyes had become like a goldfish's. Under everyone's gaze, her face was shockingly red. She retorted, "It's not my fault." She did not watch where she was going and fell. Su Qianxi immediately knew what they were up to. Sneering inwardly, Su Qianxi looked at Tang Mingqing as if she was an idiot and said, "If I could get a concussion while going to the bathroom, then my weight must be scary." "Su Qianxi, don't accuse me." Tang Mingqing gritted her teeth. "Tang Mingqing." Tang Jinghao was disappointed. "You still won't admit it. Do you think I don't know your personality? It's fine that you embarrass yourself at home, but your sister-in-law is not in good health, and you still treat her like this. I have raised you for nothing." Mrs. Tang immediately pulled Tang Mingqing to the back and looked at her husband. "Do you know how badly your daughter has been bullied by her? You have no idea how badly she has hurt her daughter. Why do you care about an outsider? Then tell me, how did she bully your daughter? All I know is that she pushed Tang Mingqing and got a concussion. What about your daughter? She has done nothing but ruin the family's reputation. I, Tang Jinghao, have lost all my face because of you." Tang Jinghao's voice was very loud. Obviously, he already knew that Tang Mingqing had an abortion. Startled by the roar, Su Qianxi took a step back. However, when she stepped back, she bumped into a meat wall. She looked back and saw it was Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing naturally stood next to her, watching the farce in front of him coldly. Captain Li heard the noise and came out. Leaning on his cane, he asked coldly, "What happened?" "Uncle Li." Tang Jinghao immediately calmed down and told him the purpose of the meeting. Tang Mingqing looked reluctant. "She bullied me first. You have no idea how badly she scratched me. It still hurts." "Where did she scratch you? Why don't you show me?" Qin Shuhua's voice came from inside. "Speak with evidence. If you have solid evidence, this matter will end here. If not, you must apologize to Su Qianxi today." Qin's attitude was very tough, and Su Qianxi almost applauded Li Xiqing's words. Su Qianxi's eyes became darker. According to Qianxi, Qianxi's Su's. He believed Tang Mingqing when she said that he was kidnapped by Su Qianxi. Su, but why did not she sue and Li Su Qianxi Su Li's Qianxi and said, "Xiqing Li Su, he S Li Su, and Chun Li Xiqing." Of all places, Su Qianxi chose that spot. "Why don't you lift it up and see?" Su Qianxi crossed her arms and looked fearless. Tang Mingqing was dazed and hesitated. "How can I look at that spot? There were so many men there, and even Tang Jinghao could not look at his daughter's private part." Chapter 138. Tang Mingqing felt so wronged that she almost burst into tears. Glaring at Su Qianxi, she roared, "You must have done it on purpose. You grabbed me on purpose so that there would be no witnesses, right? You evil woman. Su Qianxi felt a bit wronged. How did it become me doing it on purpose? Can my hand grow so long that I can reach inside to grab you? In all honesty, she really did not do it on purpose. However, it was a good grab. Qin Shuhua agreed with Su Qianxi's words. Although Qin Shuhua was not very satisfied with this daughter-in-law of hers, she was still a member of the Li family. Although the Tang family and the Li family were old friends, it was also a fact that the Tang family had bullied the Li family. Hearing Tang Mengqing's words, Qin Shuhua snorted. Who is right and who is wrong is still debatable. But is this how the daughters of the Tang family are raised? Tang Jinghao felt his face was burning. He felt that the reputation of the Tang family, which had been built for generations, had been ruined by his youngest daughter. Tang Jinghao's temper flared up. He pressed Tang Mengqing down and roared, "Apologize." Tang Mengqing looked stubborn. With tears in her eyes, she yelled, "I did not do anything wrong. She deserved it. If it were not for her, Li Xiqing would be my sister now. She is a mistress, a bitch." She finally heard it. In her previous lifetime, Su Qianxi had heard these words the most. She was a lowly mistress. If it were not for her, it would be Tang Minjing who married Li Xiqing. Hearing that, Su Qianxi subconsciously looked at Captain Li's son. Captain Li met Su Qianxi's gaze and sneered as if to comfort her. "Nephew Tang, I don't think you have the right to tell my grandson's marriage, do you?" Hearing that, Tang Jinghao felt even more humiliated. Needless to say, it must have been the older two who had indoctrinated her. Tang Jinghao was so angry that he reached out and slapped her hard in the face, shouting, "Who told you all this?" Being slapped, Tang Mengqing cried even louder. I am. Why should Su Qianxi, an illegitimate daughter and an orphan, marry Li Xiqing?" However, before he could finish, Tang Minjing covered his mouth tightly. Tang Minjing looked at her father pleadingly. "Dad, don't hit her. Mengqing is still young." Then he looked at his sister and said, "Mengqing, apologize to Qianxi. After that, let's go home. Be good." Tang Mengqing cried even harder, tears rolling down her cheeks. However, Su Qianxi gave him a cold look, turned around, and walked back into the room. This was her greatest weakness. In her previous life, it was these people who tried their best to poke at this point, digging out and magnifying the inferiority in her heart. Everyone was reminding her that she was lowly, uncultured, and uncultured. Later on, no matter how much she learned or how hard she tried, she couldn't change this fact. In this lifetime, she had changed everything. However, when she heard these words again, Su Qianxi still could not ignore it. He noticed her emotional change. The moment she turned around, he grabbed her wrist and said, "I don't care." His low voice was like rich coffee, making Su Qianxi stop and stiffen. Chapter 139. His voice came from behind her once again. It was as low as a feather, but it shook her entire world. She felt tears welling up in her eyes. Lowering her head, her tears fell on the back of her hand. What he said echoed in her mind. He did not care. He did not care. Did he really not care? In her previous lifetime, he cared so much, Su Qianxi's shoulders trembled. Anyone could tell what she was feeling. Standing behind her, Li Xiqing's cold eyes softened a bit. Pulling her around, he saw her hopelessly aggrieved little face at first glance. His eyes darkened. He pressed Su Qianxi's head against his chest and looked at Tang Mengqing, who already knew that she was in trouble again. "I did not want to see you in my house anymore." His voice was cold and deep, and it faintly carried a hint of warning that could not be disobeyed. Tang Mengqing's face paled. Facing his threatening gaze, she shivered and looked at her sister for help. Tang Minjing looked terrible. She did not expect that things would turn out like this. In this way, she was even further away from the Li family. "Go back." Old Master Li also ordered them to leave. "Our family is so uneducated and uncultured that we can't welcome distinguished guests like you." Of all the people Tang Jinghao respected the most, Old Master Li's son was number one. Hearing that, even Tang Jinghao was a bit anxious and said, "Uncle Li, go." Captain Lee did not want to look at him and waved his hand. Soon, the Tang family left. Captain Lee waved his hand and said, "Siqing, take your wife back. I should not have asked her to apologize. She's so ungrateful." Qin Shuhua looked regretful and said to Su Qianxi, "Don't mind what that girl said. You're so much better than Tang Mengqing." Su Qianxi nodded, but there was another nod in her heart. She was so much better than Tang Mengqing. Then what about Tang Minjing? Qin Shuhua was still holding back when she said that. In fact, she still hoped that Tang Minjing would be her daughter-in-law. Slightly disappointed, she wiped her face and whispered, "Thank you, Mom." Li Siqing saw her insincerity and pulled her. "Let's go. I'll take you to dinner." He asked her to choose a restaurant. She told him the name of a restaurant and asked him to drive her there. When he arrived, he realized it was a hot pot restaurant. "I used to come here when I was in a bad mood." Of course, this was referring to his previous life. However, Li Siqing did not know that. Thinking that she was talking about the time before she married him, he nodded. Sheng Ximing often brought her to this hot pot restaurant. He once said that life was like a hot pot. At the beginning, the soup was clear and fragrant. However, most people would add a lot of things into the pot, stirring up the soup into a mess. However, he enjoyed the process of muddying the soup like a dictator. Although it was a bit strange, she liked what he said. He did not like coming to this kind of occasion and frowned. However, seeing that she was in a better mood, he suppressed the urge to leave and followed her in. Chapter 140. Although it was a hot pot restaurant, it was a quiet and comfortable place. Li Siqing looked around and reluctantly accepted the decision to eat here. However, when Su Qianxi was about to get a private room, she was politely told that there were no more rooms available. "Then let's have the lobby." However, she immediately swallowed her words and looked at Li Siqing. How could someone like Li Siqing be willing to sit in the lobby? Seeming to feel her hesitation, Li Siqing looked over and arched an eyebrow. "Do you really want to eat?" Su Qianxi hesitated and nodded. It had been a long time since she had tasted the food here. Now that she was here, she really did not want to leave. Seeing the disdain in Li Siqing's eyes, Su Qianxi quickly said, "It's okay if you don't want to eat. Let's go to another place." Here, Li Siqing interrupted her. "Help us find a quiet place to sit." Su Qianxi was pleasantly surprised and blinked. "Okay." The waiter smiled and took them to a seat next to the bed. It was in the corner, but had a good view. "Mr. Li, this is the best seat in the lobby. You can press the call button if you need anything. We will serve you wholeheartedly." Okay. As he expected, everywhere Li Siqing went, people would know him. Soon, she finished ordering and placing the order. She was obviously in a much better mood. "When did you learn German?" Su Qianxi looked up and was dazed for a second. She quickly replied, "Oh, I learned it during the summer vacation." "Didn't you learn judo during the summer vacation?" Something had happened. Su Qianxi looked uncomfortable and said that it was during the summer vacation last semester. Li Siqing arched an eyebrow. It takes a long time to learn a language. Without practical communication, it is hard to be fluent. Are you sure you still remember what you learned last summer? Moreover, if you remembered correctly, didn't she stay with the Su family last summer? "I have a good memory." "Oh." Li Siqing nodded. "What about the piano?" As far as he knew, no one in the Su family knew how to play the piano, let alone owned one. In addition, judging from her piano skills, she had at least reached the 9th level. This level was not something that could be achieved in 1 or 2 summers. Su Qianxi's heart raced. She took a sip of lemonade and looked away. "I am talented and self-taught." Li Siqing pursed his lips and narrowed his eyes, thinking. Under such intense gaze, she couldn't stand it anymore. Putting down the glass, she said, "I'm going to the bathroom." As he spoke, he stood up and walked out. She walked to the bathroom with ease, feeling perturbed. Oh no, how was she going to explain? Could it be that he had died once, and now he was back? He would treat her like a lunatic. However, she had never thought of an explanation for this kind of problem. It was really a little strange that she suddenly understood it. After going to the bathroom, he pondered for a long time before slowly walking out. This restaurant was very quiet, and there were very few people coming and going. On the way back to his seat, a petite and cute girl walked towards him. When she saw Su Qianxi, She quickly stopped her and said in broken Chinese, "You, okay, do you speak Korean?" Su Qianxi arched an eyebrow and asked in Korean, "What's up?" The girl let out a sigh of relief and quickly explained her situation. It turned out that she had come here to eat hot pot and felt uncomfortable halfway through. She went to the bathroom and found that she was on her period. However, she did not bring the necessities of a woman. When she saw Su Qianxi, she immediately asked for help. Su Qianxi happened to have a few pills with her. After giving her 2, the girl thanked her profusely and went into the bathroom. Su Qianxi smiled and turned around again. At the end of the hallway, she saw a familiar tall figure. Chapter 141. However, seeing him standing behind her, her heart skipped a beat. When did he stand behind her? And the fact that she could speak Korean. Looking at his face, she couldn't help feeling guilty. He looked at her silently for 2 seconds before looking away and walking into the men's room. She felt relieved. It turned out that he was just here to use the restroom. Why was he acting like a thief? Su Qianxi looked upset, but she quickly returned to her seat. On the way, she did not even dare to look back. However, she did not know that the man behind her had walked out again. Looking at her back, he seemed to be deep in thought. Picking up his phone, he quickly dialed a number. It was Chengyu. However, when the call was about to go through, he immediately canceled it. Thinking about it, he found another number in his contact list and dialed it. The call was quickly connected. There was the sound of typing, and a clear male voice sounded. "Hey, isn't this Li Xiqing? Why did you come to me today? Help me investigate someone. F***CK. I'm an IT guy, not a criminal investigator. You should go to a detective agency. Investigate my wife." The other party was silent. After a few seconds, he asked why. Weird. Well, she had long been used to second young Master Li's concise words. Well, only I can do such a secretive thing. I'm currently developing a holographic projection technology, but I'm still short of funds. You. Zhang Heng was speechless. How much? 10 million. Blackmail? The other party chuckled. I'm in trouble. It was rare for Li Xiqing to ask him for a favor, so how could he not blackmail him? Yes, give me the results in 2 hours. The more detailed, the better. Hey, wait. Do you want to know about my feelings, my background, or something else? Did she put on a hat for you? How dare she? Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. I want to know everything about her, no matter how big or small. Got it. It's still the same account. Don't forget, I love you, au moi. Li Xiqing immediately felt speechless and hung up the phone. He put away his phone and walked back to his seat. At the same time, the sound of flushing came from the bathroom. Sheng Ximing pretended not to care and went to wash his hands. However, when he saw Li Xiqing's back, his heart sank. Isn't this guy Miss Su's husband? He wanted to investigate Su Qianxi? He had thought that their relationship was good, but now it seemed that their relationship was damn good. After washing her hands in silence, she followed him. Her eyes seemed to unintentionally look in the direction of Li Xiqing and immediately saw Su Qianxi. "Ximing, what are you looking at?" "The food is ready," Song Yifan called. "Yes." Sheng Ximing sat down, looked at Song Yifan, and said, "Do you remember Rongxian?" Song Yifan's hand paused in the middle of cooking the hot pot. He looked over with a cold look. Rongxian. Chapter 142. Song Yifan looked down and slowly processed the ingredients. He said calmly, "You must be mistaken. Xian died a long time ago. No matter how similar they look, it can't be her." Sheng Ximing also became silent. After a while, he continued, "They really look alike. At first glance, I thought I saw Xian. If she had a child back then, she would probably—" Song Yifan's hand slightly trembled. His eyes, which were usually calm and gentle, had a trace of emotion. "Where is she?" Sheng Ximing pointed to a corner by the window. From her point of view, it was completely blocked by the high sofa. Song Yifan put down his chopsticks, stood up, and looked over. However, before he saw it, there was another person in front of him. It was the owner of the hot pot restaurant. He smiled politely and said, "Mr. Song, what do you think?" Song Yifan frowned, looked over again, and saw a soft and beautiful face. "Okay, but I want to add one more condition." Seeing Li Xiqing coming back, Su Qianxi felt a bit nervous. Silently cooking the ingredients, she pretended that she did not know he was back. Li Xiqing did not speak either. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. The sound of microphones came from all directions, a bit sharp and harsh. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you here. Many people only listened for a while before they lowered their heads and continued eating. Today, Mr. Song Yifan has also come to our restaurant. Do you want to hear him play? Song Yifan. Hearing the name, many people looked up and immediately responded, yes. Is it really Song Yifan? No way. Is it just a gimmick of the hot pot restaurant? Su Qianxi looked over and could see a piano in the center of the hall. In front of the piano, there was a person standing. It was him who had just said the words. Let Mr. Song see how enthusiastic you are. Let's cheer together. Song Yifan, Song Yifan, Song Yifan. All the people in the restaurant began to shout. Everyone was looking around, trying to find Song Yifan. Su Qianxi was no exception. After a while, she saw a man in his 30s or 40s standing up in a corner. He was tall, thin, but healthy. He walked leisurely to the piano, dressed in casual clothes. He looked soft and casual, but his elegant aristocratic aura was still strong. When Su Qianxi saw his face, she immediately held her breath, and her heart raced with excitement. This person, Song Yifan? Song Yifan, one of the best pianists in the world and the only Chinese in the International Piano Association? How could she meet Song Yifan in such a place? Heavens, she wasn't dreaming, was she? The idol he worshipped the most in both his previous and current life, as well as the only person he worshipped, was actually here. It was too amazing. Widening his eyes in disbelief, he wanted to take a closer look, but his eyes inadvertently caught sight of a familiar figure standing up as well. Uncle Sheng. Uncle Sheng was having hot pot with Song Yifan. Yes, Uncle Sheng and Song Yifan seemed to be good friends. Chapter 143. It was said that when they were young, they even had a falling out over a woman. Later, Song Yifan went to France and became an international pianist, while Li Xiqing became one of the top lawyers in Kingstown. Kingstown was the memory of the three of them. In her previous life, she had never met Song Yifan, nor had she heard anything about Song Yifan from Uncle Sheng's mouth other than the past. How come? Could it be that this was also the trajectory that he had changed? No, that was not right. He had nothing to do with her, right? While Su Qianxi was dazed, Song Yifan had walked onto the stage and stood next to the host. Putting one hand on the left side of his heart, he bowed and said, "Hello, everyone. I am Song Yifan." Ah, it really is Song Yifan. I can't believe I'm eating at the same hot pot restaurant with Song Yifan. So happy. This restaurant is so rich. They can even invite Song Yifan. Are you stupid? Obviously, Mr. Song is just here for dinner. Who will be dressed like this? But he is so handsome. Hearing the screams of the girls around her, Su Qianxi's heart was pounding and her eyes were shining. Wipe your saliva, Li Xiqing said coldly, which dazed Su Qianxi. She subconsciously touched her chin, but dry. Blushing, Su Qianxi gave him a stare and accidentally saw the teasing look in his eyes. Is he really that good-looking? He was just an old man, not even 1/10 as good-looking as him. Did he have a look like that? Blushing, Su Qianxi took a sip of water. Of course, he is good-looking. He frowned slightly. He seemed to have married an infatuated woman. Could it be that a man who was slightly better looking would be able to abduct her and take her away? It is our honor to welcome Mr. Song to our restaurant. All meals are 20% off today. In addition, we would like to invite a lucky customer to play a song with our international pianist. I wonder who will have the honor. Me, my piano skills have already passed level 10. Pick me. Me, it must be me. Although I have not passed level 10, I have heard all of Mr. Song's songs. I can play. Pick me. Su Qianxi blinked and felt a bit regretful. She didn't expect that there would be so many experts here. Sitting in such a corner, she was afraid that there was no hope for her. Looking back with regret, she picked up a piece of meat, dipped it in the sauce, and put it in her mouth. Don't worry, everyone has a chance. Let's pick a lucky customer. If the person we pick doesn't know how to play the piano, then the opportunity will be transferred. As he spoke, a spotlight at the top began to spin rapidly. Song Yifan's fans all held their breath, and some even trembled with excitement. She swallowed the food in her mouth and took a sip of the lemonade. However, a strong light shone over, causing her eyes to sting slightly, and she squinted her eyes. "Okay, miss." The spotlight fell on Su Qianxi, and she instantly became the focus of everyone. Why? She was chosen even though she was sitting in such a corner. Her life is too good. F***. If I had known earlier, I would have sat there. Boo-hoo. I was born at the wrong time. I was born at the wrong time. Chapter 144. Everyone's eyes were focused on her. Su Qianxi clearly felt the jealousy around her. "It's you." "Yes, it's you." You can't play the piano, right?" "No way, right?" Yes. Let's transfer the opportunity." The expectant voices around made Su Qianxi blink her eyes, and then she was overwhelmed with ecstasy. "It's really me?" Su Qianxi looked at Li Xiqing, overjoyed. Li Xiqing frowned slightly, looked up, and glanced at the spotlight that had been directed at her. His meaning was self-evident. Su Qianxi exclaimed happily, "It's really me." The host smiled and said, "Yes, lucky girl. Do you know how to play the piano?" "I do." Of course she did. When she was in the most difficult and awkward situation, it was Song Yifan's music that brought her out of the darkness. In Song Yifan's style, there was a natural sense of sadness, pessimistic and low, but the more you listened to it, the more magical it was. There was a saying that was called survival in a desperate situation. Song Yifan's music had this feeling the most. It was magical and beautiful. It was also because of Song Yifan that Su Qianxi decided to learn the piano. Now, she was lucky enough to meet this idol that she had always thought could only be seen from afar. She did not expect that she would have the opportunity to play with him. Su Qianxi's heart almost jumped out of her chest, filled with nervousness and excitement. Seeing Su Qianxi like this, the host felt a bit strange. This girl did not seem to be any different from other fans, and it looked like she was seeing Song Yifan for the first time. Why did Song Yifan treat her so differently? Although curious, the host still had to maintain his professionalism. He waved at Su Qianxi and said, "Can you come to the front?" "Yes." Almost jumping up and down, Su Qianxi quickly got up from her seat and walked toward the stage where Song Yifan was. At this moment, Su Qianxi felt like she was surrounded by dozens of pairs of eyes, feeling very nervous. But soon, she relaxed again. Phew, it was no big deal. She could just pretend that she was at a party. Thinking about it this way, Su Qianxi's condition was undoubtedly much better. Stepping forward, she clearly noticed that Song Yifan was looking at her. His gaze was deep and indescribable. It was like looking at an acquaintance. But amidst the familiarity, there was also a complicated unfamiliarity. The first time Uncle Sheng saw her, he had the same look in his eyes. However, in Song Yifan's eyes, she clearly sensed the sadness and indescribable bitterness in his eyes. What does that mean? Seeing that, Su Qianxi subconsciously looked in the direction of Sheng Shiming. Sheng Shiming was a little surprised that she had found him. He smiled at her and made a gesture to cheer her on. "Lucky lady, what's your name?" "My surname is Su." "Okay, Miss Su. Did you know Mr. Song before this?" "Of course," she blurted out. Song Yifan's eyes fell on her face, and there seemed to be a smile on his lips. Gentle and doting? Su Qianxi blinked, and when she fixed her eyes on him, they disappeared again. Oh, it must be an illusion. This was the first time they had met. However, no one noticed the golden seat in the corner of the restaurant. Chapter 145. Feeling the unfriendly stare, Song Yifan looked at the corner. Instantly, their eyes met. His warm and deep eyes seemed to have collided with an extremely cold glacier. For a moment, their gazes were intertwined. Song Yifan clearly saw the warning and displeasure in the cold man's eyes and was a bit surprised. If he remembered correctly, this young man should be Li Xiqing, the new upstart in the business world in Kingstown. Seeing the unfriendly stare from Li Xiqing, Su Qianxi felt a bit uneasy. How could she forget that Li Xiqing was still here? However, what should she do now? He did not seem very happy. Should she give up the opportunity to be intimate with her idol? No way. This was the only time in her 2 lifetimes. Besides, she had never been very lucky. If she missed this chance, would she ever have another chance? No, not again. Gritting her teeth, facing Li Xiqing's cold stare, she turned around and turned her back to him. Seeing this, Li Xiqing's eyes became darker and darker. This woman was getting bolder and bolder. Seeing this, Song Yifan knew that they must know each other, so he nodded at Li Xiqing with a friendly smile. However, in Li Xiqing's eyes, Song Yifan's smile was completely different. Was this old man provoking him? Turning his eyes, he looked at Sheng Shiming, who was standing not far away from Song Yifan. It seemed that these 2 old men wanted to work together to steal his wife. Coincidence? Lucky client? Su Qianxi had been picked out from such a corner. It would be an accident. However, Li Xiqing really could not figure out what attracted them to Su Qianxi. Miss Su, do you know how to play Qi Xian? Song Yifan's voice was deep and husky, unique to a mature man. Hearing it, Su Qianxi felt like she was going to melt. She nodded again and again. Su Qianxi wanted to say something, but found herself too nervous and excited to say a word. Song Yifan's eyes softened when he looked at her. She was really very similar to her. No wonder Sheng Shiming would have such a reaction. Then, shall we begin? The audience was full of jealousy, wishing they could replace Su Qianxi and become the one to play with their idol. She nodded, and after he sat down, she sat next to him. Qi Xian was the song that made Song Yifan famous. This piece amazed the entire piano association. It was also this song that made Song Yifan famous and honored. The familiar music sounded, and everyone quieted down, quietly listening to this rare live performance. Song Yifan went from alto bass, and Su Qianxi naturally went from alto treble. The first half was a bit low. After Song Yifan finished, Su Qianxi's fingers fell on a white key. Wrong. As soon as she pressed it, someone immediately shouted, "Does that woman know how to play Qi Xian? That is not the sound." These words were echoed by many girls who were already feeling unbalanced. Aya, don't force yourself if you don't know. You're embarrassing yourself. That's right. Sigh, if I go up, there will definitely be no problem. Song Yifan frowned and turned to look at Su Qianxi. It seemed that Su Qianxi did not hear the voices around her at all, focusing on the keys. Her fingers were long and slender. She was born to play the piano. The sound of the piano gradually became louder. The sad and loving music filled the restaurant and seeped into everyone's ears. Those who had just ridiculed Su Qianxi gradually became silent. Song Yifan was the most touched. He gradually stopped playing and looked at the girl he had met for the first time. Su Qianxi seemed to have entered a place where no one was around. Her side profile was as tranquil as a painting. Although she did not have any makeup on, she was more stunning than any makeup. One glance was enough to take one's soul. The person in front of him and the face in his memory merged into one. Song Yifan's eyes, which had been calm before, were suddenly filled with glints. Chapter 146. As the sound of the zither faded, the entire hall was filled with thunderous applause. As for Song Yifan, after the first part, he did not play anymore. It was almost Su Qianxi's show. Who is this? She played so well. I have never heard of her, but she is so pretty. So pretty. I heard that Song Yifan is not married yet. They look quite good together. Song Yifan is obviously much older than her. Besides, he came with a boyfriend. Look over there. Hearing that, many people looked at the place where Su Qianxi had been sitting. Wow, so handsome. Ah, isn't that Li Xiqing? Li Xiqing. No way, it's really Li Xiqing. Oh my God, what kind of luck do I have today? I can't believe I saw so many VIPs. Wait, is that girl Li Xiqing's girlfriend? Don't tell me the truth. I want some time alone. Don't ask me who she is. But isn't Li Xiqing married? Hearing the discussion around her, Su Qianxi felt like she was being looked at like a monkey. Blushing, she quickly stood up. Song Yifan also stood up, at the same time. Almost at the same time, they bowed to each other. Husband and wife. Someone with a cheap mouth shouted, causing the surrounding people to roar with laughter. Su Qianxi's heart raced, but she did not feel offended by the teasing. After all, he was her idol. Looking at Song Yifan, Su Qianxi looked up with her eyes sparkling. She summoned up her courage and said, "Mr. Song, can I take a picture with you?" "My pleasure." Song Yifan's words made many girls scream again. "I'm going to faint. Song Yifan is so gentlemanly and mature. I want to be his fan." Mature men are indeed the most attractive. However, when Su Qianxi picked up her phone and turned on the camera, a big hand blocked her phone and snatched it away. Su Qianxi was startled. Turning around, she saw a handsome face that was obviously displeased and gloomy. Her heart skipped a beat, and the impulse to get angry immediately softened. When did he get up there? She actually did not notice anything at all, but under such circumstances, he was a little anxious. He stretched out his hand, wanting to snatch it back. "Give me back my phone." Li Xiqing's face became colder. Putting the phone behind him, he took the opportunity to hold her in his arms. All she could see was her phone. Standing on her tiptoes, she reached behind him. "Get back to me. Why did you take my phone? You're not allowed to take pictures." The cold voice was filled with displeasure. "I won't allow it." His voice was extremely low and cold. Su Qianxi was a bit angry. "Why? That's my phone, and I'm not taking pictures with you. Why can't you let me?" It was precisely because it wasn't with him that he wouldn't allow it. Even Li Xiqing was shocked by the idea. However, when Su Qianxi stood with Song Yifan, he felt uncomfortable. Ignoring her protest, the arm around her waist tightened and said firmly, "Go home." It was also because of this that Su Qianxi realized how intimate they were at this moment. Under everyone's gaze, her whole body was almost pressed against him. As she moved, she could clearly feel the warmth of his body. Looking around, she found that almost everyone was looking at her. Blushing, Su Qianxi quickly lowered her head. Chapter 147. Hearing the exclamations around her, Su Qianxi lowered her head, wishing she could find a hole to hide in. Pushing him, she whispered, "Let go of me." Li Xiqing looked down and could see her pink ears. Cute." He raised his hand and covered her ears. Under Su Qianxi's shocked gaze, he looked at Song Yifan. "I've heard a lot about you, but we should go." Seeing the obvious displeasure in Li Xiqing's eyes, Song Yifan smiled warmly. Nodding, Song Yifan reached into his pocket and took out a card. "This is my business card. Miss Su, we can keep in touch." Song Yifan's business card. "Oh my god. Damn, I'm so lucky. Why didn't he pick me?" The audience was excited, and Su Qianxi was jumping for joy. Keep in touch. Her idol had given her his business card and asked her to keep in touch with him. Since she came back to life, it was the first time that Su Qianxi had been so happy and lucky. Excitedly slapping his hand away, she turned around and held the small card in her hand. On the card, there was only a name, a number, and an email address. There was no title, but it was completely Song Yifan style. Su Qianxi couldn't help but think of saying, "Being low-key is the best way to show off." "Can we go home now?" Li Xiqing's gloomy voice came to Su Qianxi's mind. She nodded and looked at Song Yifan. "Then, I'll go." "Yes, is this your boyfriend?" Song Yifan asked. Su Qianxi blinked. Boyfriend? To her, these three words were too far away from her. She had never had a boyfriend before. Shaking her head, Su Qianxi smiled. However, before she came back to herself, she felt a chill behind her. Looking back, she saw Li Xiqing's cold eyes. Feeling cold, Su Qianxi said sensibly, "Let's go home." Getting off the stage and walking out of the restaurant under everyone's gaze, Su Qianxi held the business card tightly in her hand. Her heart was full of excitement. Today, she had not only solved Tang Mingqing's problem, but also met Song Yifan and got the business card of her idol. Su Qianxi felt that she was so lucky. Staring at the business card, she followed him closely. However, in a moment of inattention, the man in front of her suddenly stopped. Su Qianxi was caught off guard and bumped into a strong back. Her nose was sore. With a pained expression, She covered her nose and looked at him with teary eyes. It hurts. He looked back, but his eyes fell on the business card in her hand. Soon, he looked away. Isn't that nice? Su Qianxi blinked and smiled. You look good. Seeing their idol's name card was like seeing their idol in person. How could not look good? Li Xiqing's eyes darkened as he reached out and took the card from her hand. Let me have a look. The card was suddenly taken away. She was shocked and reached out to grab it. However, she did not know if Li Xiqing's fingers had been touched by her or he had deliberately loosened his grip. The card instantly fell from his fingers. It was a sunny and windless day in Connecticut. The business card fell vertically. Under Su Qianxi's nervous gaze, it went into the gap of the drain not far from their feet. Chapter 148. Business card. She screamed and immediately took a step back, squatting down. In front of her was a dark ditch, water was flowing, and there was a constant stench. The smile on her face suddenly disappeared. She looked up and roared, "Why did you take my business card? Besides, the road was so wide and spacious. Why did he stop in front of the ditch?" Not only did he stop, but he also took the business card at this time and accidentally dropped it. Could it be that he did it on purpose? However, Li Xiqing would not do such a stupid thing, would he? Li Xiqing glanced at her, and a trace of meaning flashed in his eyes. Was this woman throwing a tantrum at him? Well, it seemed that not only was she getting bolder, but her temper was also getting worse. He reached out and picked up the girl squatting on the ground. He said casually, "It's just a business card. I have one too." Then he took out a business card and handed it over. However, the name on it was Li Xiqing. The business card was exquisite and elegant, with a black card and silver lettering. However, when she saw the black business card in front of her, she felt aggrieved. Stomping her feet, she turned around and left. Seeing that she ignored him and left, Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. "Where are you going?" "Home. The car is in the back. I'll go back myself." Li Xiqing raised an eyebrow in surprise. Was she throwing a tantrum? He had thought that she would not throw a tantrum. She looked exactly the same as she did on the first 2 days of their marriage. However, she was much better than before. When he was about to go up, his phone rang. It was Luo Zhan, one of his few good friends. Li Xiqing put the phone to his ear and did not make sound. "Young Master Li, how much time did you give me?" "Amnesia. No sense of humor at all. Did you find it?" "Of course, but you have to be mentally prepared." Li Xiqing vaguely had a bad feeling. Was there really something wrong with Su Qianxi's background? Su Qianxi, right? Although her last name is Su, she grew up in an orphanage. "Tell me something I don't know," Li Xiqing interrupted. Luo Zhan said, "This is called foreshadowing." Foreshadowing, understand? This is the same logic as when you go to bed. Without foreplay, how can there be a climax? Don't you think so? Speak human language. Why are you in such a hurry? You will become a 3-second man if you are anxious. Luo Zhan laughed. Driving Li Xiqing crazy was his greatest pleasure. Li Xiqing suppressed the urge to hang up and gritted his teeth in silence. Luo Zhan sensed the sense of crisis and immediately became serious. He coughed lightly and said, "Back then, Su Han, the daughter of the Su family, disappeared mysteriously at the age of 17. According to the investigation, she should have been sold to the deep mountains in the countryside and had a child." Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes. "You mean, it's very likely that your wife is the child that was born from that asterisk. Chapter 149. I haven't called the 10 million yet. Luo Zhan shivered and immediately sat up straight, yelling, "Damn, you are so disloyal. I have checked for you, and you still haven't called." Su Qianxi's figure was already far away. Li Xiqing glanced at the small white bag in his hand and did not want to chase after her. He slowly walked to his car, opened the door, and sat back. "If you keep me guessing, I will ask my assistant to bring it back." When Luo Zhan heard this, he immediately smiled flatteringly. In fact, it was nothing. Later, the family moved to the city. Su Han pretended to go grocery shopping, so she was able to escape with her daughter. She wrote a letter about her family background and left it at the door of the orphanage with her daughter's name. She wrote about the Su family? Yes, the general content said that she was the daughter of the Su family. If she was sent back, she would get a lot of money. The director of the orphanage believed it and was overjoyed. As a result, he sent the baby to the Su family, but the Su family did not recognize the child as their sister's daughter at all. They even said that if they continued to pester them, they would call the police. So, the child grew up in the orphanage. You don't know these things, right? Yes. He really did not know there was such a layer. He did not expect the Su family to be so heartless that they did not even recognize their sister's child. Didn't your old man go on a mission when he was about to retire? About 18 years ago, a woman named Su Han saved his life and helped him eat a bullet. Your old man was so touched that he cried bitterly and said that he would agree to any of her conditions. That woman proposed that her daughter must marry his most outstanding grandson. You know this, but I'm curious. Why was the Su family willing to recognize that niece later? You don't know the grandpa's means? Li Siqing took out a cigarette and slowly lit it. He did not smoke it, but just watched it burn. With the old man in the middle, how dare the Su family not recognize them? However, I also found out something else. Say it. Su Qianxi and Su Zhenghua are not related at all. Su Qianxi walked quickly and suddenly found that her white bag had disappeared. She didn't know when it had happened. Right now, she was penniless. It would take more than half an hour to drive back to the wealthy area of the villa. It was impossible to walk back. More importantly, she had no sense of direction. Su Qianxi was about to go crazy. It was the first time she had felt so annoyed and angry since her rebirth. Was she going to walk back like this? That pair of legs must be broken. Moreover, the phone was in his hand. It was truly a case of no response from the heavens and earth. Walk back to the hot pot restaurant to look for him? She had been walking for more than 10 minutes. If she turned back now, he might have already left. Moreover, she had left on her own just now. Forget it. Maybe Uncle Sheng is still at the hot pot restaurant. I'll just take it one step at a time. Walking back the way he came, he found that the low-key but luxurious black Maybach was still parked there. The moment she appeared at the corner of the street, Li Siqing also looked over. Seeing his cold eyes, her heart suddenly raced. Could it be that he was waiting for her? But when she saw the phone in his hand, she understood. This guy was making a phone call. Angrily walking up, she opened the passenger seat door and got in. Su Qianxi's eyes were full of Li Siqing's car, and she did not notice that two young girls were looking at her in front of her. Hey, isn't that our campus bell? Damn, where's the concussion? Where's the discomfort? Wait, look, she's coming over and getting in the car. That's a Maybach. It's worth at least 10 million. Hurry, get it. Chapter 150. Su Qianxi did not notice that she was being photographed. After sitting in the car, she saw her cell phone and purse on the seat. She picked them up and found that everything was still there. She was about to open the door and get out. Li Siqing reached out and held her down. Spitting out a mouthful of white smoke, he said in a low voice, "What are you doing?" "Going home," she said matter-of-factly. Li Siqing heard that and narrowed his eyes. A vague sense of danger slowly spread in the car. "Are you mad at me?" Su Qianxi was dazed and suddenly felt a bit scared. She seemed to be mad at him, but how could that be? How could she be mad at him? Li Siqing had said that he liked gentle and sensible women, so she had always been gentle and sensible, hadn't she? But thinking of what she had just done, Su Qianxi felt a bit annoyed. How could she return to the way she used to be? Li Siqing hated her the most, didn't he? Wait, why did she care about that? She was going to divorce him, wasn't she? It seemed that there was no need to please him anymore, right? She looked up and saw Li Siqing's ambiguous expression. She slightly lowered her head and did not speak. What should she do? She still did not want him to hate her. That would be enough, right? Seeing Su Qianxi's obvious cowardice, Li Siqing frowned and felt inexplicably annoyed. This woman was really not cute at all. She could be mad at him. It was not like he was not allowed. He felt that it was boring for her to deliberately soften and please him. He had seen too many women like this. Seatbelt. Li Siqing's voice was a bit impatient. Okay. She obediently put on the seatbelt and became much more obedient. When she got home, she turned on the computer and received a document from Liu Yihan as expected. She opened it and checked it before replying. After dealing with business, she stretched and inadvertently looked at the main panel. In a group of students, there was a gray profile picture that had never been lit up. Even the name was very simple, L. Opening the chat window, her slender fingers quickly sent over 2 words. Are you there? However, there was no response. The next day, she went back to school. However, she did not know whether it was an illusion or not, but she felt that the gazes of the people around her today were strange. Carrying her backpack, she found a seat and sat down. At that moment, she felt that more people were looking at her, and they were all strange. The first class was an introduction to financial engineering. The teacher was a female professor who was known as Abbess Miju. She was already in her 40s, but she still liked to wear a fashionable pink mini skirt and energetic white platform shoes. Coupled with her wrinkled makeup, she became a big attraction in the finance department. The scenery arrived as expected. As soon as he entered, he saw that everyone's eyes were focused in one direction. Su Qianxi. Here. Su Qianxi was confused by the name, but she quickly stood up. Have you recovered? Oh, much better. Thank you for your concern, Professor. In the future, if you ask for leave on your own, it will only make your classmates think that there is something wrong with your style. What do you mean? There was a problem with her style. Why was there a problem with her style? A female classmate looked over and whispered, You don't know? Everything about you is going viral on the school forum. Then she took out her phone and pushed it in front of her. Chapter 151. Su Qianxi knew it was a clickbait. However, Su Qianxi still couldn't help clicking on it. If she guessed right, the cold campus bell was referring to her. Miju's shirt eye glanced at her and snorted coldly. Sit down. Just don't bring your bad habits from your daily life to school and affect other students. A bad habit in daily life? That had a lot of meaning. Su Qianxi looked at Miju coldly and asked, What do you mean by that? Before Miju Nun said anything, some boys around her spoke up. Stop pretending. You know what the teacher means. Instead of learning the good stuff, you're doing something stupid. Concussion? I think you're pervert. Ha ha ha. That's so mean. But well said. I thought she was really cold. I didn't expect that she was only cold to us. She's doing those things in secret. Cold campus bell? She's always been alone. I told you she can't be that clean. The words around her became more and more harsh, and Su Qianxi's face became more and more gloomy. Slapping the table, she warned, Do you have any proof for saying that? Proof? Look at it yourself. The forum has proof. A boy threw a phone at her, and there was a picture on it. It was the picture of her sitting in Li Xiqing's car when she went back yesterday. Seeing the picture, Su Qianxi calmed down and smiled sarcastically. This is your proof? The boy who threw the phone at her saw her smile and suddenly became dazed. Blushing, he stammered, Isn't this enough? Me sitting in my family's car is proof that I'm a prostitute? Your family's car? The boy was obviously dumbfounded. How is that possible? Everyone knows you're an orphan. This is a Maybach. This model costs at least 10 million. If your family is so rich, why did you have to work to pay for your tuition in high school? Obviously, her background had been investigated by many people. Su Qianxi heard that and sneered. I wonder if you know about Lu Ainan's incident. As he spoke, he tidied up the books on the desk and stuffed them into his bag. Seeing that Su Qianxi was about to leave, Abbess Miju was furious. Su Qianxi, where are you going? Skipping class. She did not look back. Out of sight, out of mind, with such a teacher and students. Out of the classroom, Su Qianxi pretended to be calm, but she soon collapsed. Who was so gossipy to actually talk about her like that? She opened Weibo and searched for Lu Ainan's case. As the news went down, the video and the news about Mrs. Li all disappeared. The rest was all about Lu Ainan. No wonder no one in the school recognized her as one of the protagonists of the Lu Ainan incident. Forget it. There was no lack of gossip in a place like the school. Maybe in 2 days, this matter would be over. However, she had obviously underestimated the influence of such a thing. In less than 2 days, this matter had already risen to the level of gossip news, becoming the headline of all the major news outlets. Captain Lee was sitting in the backyard, playing games on his phone with his glasses on. Suddenly, a message popped up with a striking title. The campus belle of Kingstown University is suspected to have a mistress. She is an orphan, but she wears designer clothes and is driven to and fro by luxury cars. The female university students nowadays are really messy. Their morals are getting worse by the day. Captain Lee sighed, but soon remembered something and straightened up. Isn't the campus belle our Chan? Chapter 152. Li Siqing had just finished the meeting when his phone rang. He clicked it open and saw it was from Dear Baby Grandpa. Seeing the name, he was speechless. Grandpa must have secretly changed the name on his phone again. After changing the name to Grandpa, he clicked on a message. Reading the content of the news, Li Siqing's eyes gradually became cold. He picked up the phone and dialed the internal line. Soon, Chengyu came in. Boss. Li Siqing threw the phone over. Take care of it. Chengyu took the phone and suddenly laughed. What's wrong with these people? However, she did not say anything and turned to leave. Less than 10 minutes after she left, she came back in, frowning. Boss, things seem to be a bit troublesome. Li Siqing looked up from the pile of documents and looked at Chengyu. Chengyu looked embarrassed and said, There is something new on the internet. Look. Li Siqing handed the phone over, and there was another eye-catching title. Breaking. The campus belle of Kingstown University is promiscuous and has been with several men at the same time. The temperature around Li Siqing suddenly plummeted, and a dangerous atmosphere quickly spread. Chengyu only felt a chill run from the top of her head to her toes, and she silently shrank back. Clicking on the news, the first picture was the one of Su Qianxi and Lu Yihan seemingly kissing. How could it be? He had clearly deleted that picture from Tang Minqing's phone. How could there still be one? Frowning, he scrolled down and saw Su Qianxi getting out of a red Renault. It was Lu Yihan's car. Further down, it was Su Qianxi holding Grandpa's arm and smiling. Then, Su Qianxi and Shang Ximing were sitting opposite each other. Su Qianxi and Lu Yihan were talking and laughing in the hospital bed. Su Qianxi and Lu Yihan were sitting opposite each other in the coffee shop. Su Qianxi and Fu Longbing were standing side by side, clinking glasses and drinking. Looking at their clothes, it was from the high school reunion. Further down, it was a picture of Su Qianxi and Su Zhenghua eating alone in a restaurant. There was no text description, but all the pictures combined with the title did not need any explanation. All of this was enough for everyone to imagine a blockbuster movie about a delinquent college student who was desperate for money. However, what bothered him was that if he had not been supervising her all the time, it would have been impossible to collect so many photos like this. Li Siqing narrowed his eyes. Who had been following Su Qianxi? Standing up, he took his coat from the tripod and walked out. Find the source of the picture as soon as possible. The person behind this had obviously been plotting this for a long time. He wanted to see who was so bold. Chengyu was shocked. Yes. As soon as the new news came out, the posts that had been cooling down in the school forum were immediately pushed up again. Everyone was gossiping about the romantic history of the campus belle. Su Qianxi suddenly became a popular figure in the school. It was a public elective class in the afternoon. She never had the habit of being late, so she arrived at the classroom 5 minutes before the class started. Although she had attracted a lot of attention along the way, she had become accustomed to such gazes over the past few days. She didn't care and just sat in the classroom. However, in less than 2 minutes, the principal came to the door of the classroom and said to Su Qianxi, "Student, come out for a second." Seeing this scene, someone gloated and shouted, "The promiscuous goddess is going to be fired." Chapter 153. Seeing this scene, someone gloated and shouted, "The promiscuous goddess is going to be fired." The news is out. How can such a person stay on campus? Kingstown University cannot afford to lose face like this. Now everyone is talking about the school spirit. It would be strange if the school would let her stay. The discussions around them continued to ring out. Su Qianxi's heart sank. Putting down the book in her hand, she was about to get up when she heard the principal say, "Put your books away and follow me to the principal's office." Hearing that, there was an even greater uproar. Feeling the gloating gazes around her, Su Qianxi felt a bit cold. Following the principal all the way, she saw that the place the principal was not going to the principal's office but directly took her downstairs. President Wang, isn't the principal's office upstairs? President Wang did not pay attention to her and took her directly to the playground. Su Qianxi glanced over and saw a crowd of people. A series of interview and filming equipment were all available. Su Qianxi stopped, but those people did not intend to let her go and rushed forward. Miss Su, wait a minute. Don't go, wait a minute. Su Qianxi would not listen to them. She immediately turned around and wanted to escape. You can't reason with such nosy reporters. This kind of people would only try to dig what they wanted and would never believe her words and explanations. In that case, she might as well not face them. However, President Wang had tried so hard to bring her here. How could he let her go? Quickly blocking her way, President Wang's expression was not very good. Miss Su, no matter what, I have to give Kingstown University an answer. We cannot let the whole campus be affected because of your style. Hearing that, Su Qianxi was so angry that she laughed. My style problem? President Wang, have you tried to find out the truth? Have you asked me what's going on? As a teacher, following the crowd, the principal of Kingstown University is nothing more than this. Headmaster Wang's expression turned even uglier. He pushed her, forcing her to face the reporters who were constantly crowding around them. Those reporters were even more excited, wanted to put the microphone in his mouth and push him forward. Su Qianxi covered her face, not letting them take pictures, but there was always a hand grabbing her hand, and the camera kept shining on her face. This is a live broadcast. I'm Wang Qinghua, the principal of Kingstown University. I hereby announce that this female student's behavior is improper. She has brought shame to the university and her classmates. She will be expelled. From today on, she has nothing to do with the university. Principal Wang's words made the surrounding reporters even more excited. Miss Su, do you have anything to explain? Miss Su, I heard that you have a relationship with the old chairman of the Li Financial Group. Is that true? Miss Su, how many men are you dating at the same time? Can you tell us? Su Qianxi was almost blinded by the flashing lights. Feeling dizzy, the only thing that echoed in her head was Miss Su. Miss Su. Beep, beep, the sound of a car horn could be heard. Everyone stopped what they were doing and turned to look behind them. Hearing the whistle, Su Qianxi felt vaguely familiar. However, there was no time to think about it. Seeing that they were all distracted, she quietly turned and wanted to slip away. Catch her! She wants to run. Someone shouted, and all the attention was returned to Su Qianxi. Chapter 154. Miss Su, why do you want to run? Do you have a guilty conscience? Miss Su, do you really not have anything to say? Miss Su. Su Qianxi was annoyed by the way they kept calling her Miss Su. Turning around, she yelled, You guys are so annoying. You don't believe me when I tell you the truth. Why do you have to force me to say that I'm a sugar daddy? The reporters were silent for a second, but then they started to ask questions like crazy. Are you admitting that you're a sugar daddy? Miss Su, does your family know that you're so open? I heard that your sugar daddy is the president of S.G. Enterprise, right? Su Qianxi couldn't take it anymore and sneered. Do you want to know the truth? The reporters immediately quieted down, holding their breath, waiting for the next headline. The truth is that the car I got in was my husband's car, and the sugar daddy you've been talking about is Li Xiqing. Go ask him if you can. Then she turned around and walked away. However, these reporters were not to be trifled with. They immediately surrounded her, making it impossible for her to escape. Mr. Li is married. Don't you think it's shameless of you to say that? Although Mr. Li never appears in public, he is known for his integrity. Don't you think it's a slap in the face for you to say that? Mr. Li would never keep a college girl as a sugar daddy. Miss Su, while serving the sugar daddy, you are fantasizing about Mr. Li. Is that right? At the same time, Weibo posted, Campus Belle admits being a sugar daddy and fantasizes about Li Xiqing. Su Qianxi finally saw what gossip was and what reporters were. She should not have said anything. The more she said, the more mistakes she would make. She shut her mouth and tried to squeeze out, but it was a waste of effort. Beep, beep. The whistle was louder and quieter than before. It was almost right in front of them. Many people were startled by the sudden loud whistle and quickly turned around, only to see a flashy and low-key black Maybach stop behind them. Su Qianxi looked at the car in disbelief. Wow, one of Beauty Sue's rumored boyfriends. Someone shouted, and the reporters immediately changed their target and swarmed toward the black Maybach. The front passenger door was quickly opened. The flashing lights kept flashing, reflecting on the bright car, dazzling everyone's eyes. The car door opened, and a long and powerful leg stepped out. A top-notch handmade blue and black striped suit appeared in front of everyone. As soon as he saw the clothes, he knew it was extraordinary. Many reporters with good eyesight quickly took a few close-up shots of the material. There was even a flamer who posted on Weibo on the spot with the words, "Breaking news! The school belle sugar daddy is wearing luxurious clothes and a luxurious car. His net worth is estimated to be over 100 million. But when a man in the car completely appeared in front of everyone, there was silence again. The man's figure was tall and straight, his face expressionless. Her almond-shaped eyes were bone-chilling, and the aura around her was as cold as ice. Cold, but in the eyes of the reporters, there was a flame of restlessness. However, no one dared to speak first. Everyone knew that Mr. Li had a bad temper. There was silence for 1 second, 2 seconds. Finally, a female reporter couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Li, what are you doing here?" Chapter 155. No one had expected that Li Xiqing would answer. No one had expected him to answer like that. What kind of answer was that? Picking up his wife from class? This was a university. Could it be that his wife was a college student? No, that was impossible, because she was a teacher here. Everyone was dumbfounded, looking at Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing walked straight towards Su Qianxi with his long legs, looking tall and handsome. What was going on? Li Xiqing, who had always stayed away from women, was walking toward this flirtatious campus belle? What kind of joke was that? Everyone suddenly felt that their brain circuits were not enough. Seeing Li Xiqing walking toward her, Su Qianxi was also dumbfounded. Li Xiqing's eyes were deep as he stopped in front of her. Is class over? His words were short, and his voice was low, but very clear. Yes, Li Xiqing was talking to Su Qianxi. The breaking news made the reporters excited. Their hands seemed to be equipped with motors as they kept taking pictures. One reporter even asked, "Mr. Li, you said you were here to pick up your wife. May I ask who your wife is? Is she a teacher at Kingstown University?" Mr. Li Xiqing did not plan to answer them. Seeing Su Qianxi's dumbfounded face, he was displeased. "Are you mute?" Su Qianxi blinked, nodded, and then shook her head. "What do you mean? I was supposed to be in class, but I was called out." "By who?" "Him." Su Qianxi pointed at President Wang. Principal Wang only felt Li Xiqing's threatening gaze and immediately felt a chill run down his spine. Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes, looking confused and questioning why. "He wants to expel me and kick me out of the university." Su Qianxi felt like a child who was complaining. After seeing Li Xiqing, she felt indescribably safe. The pressure around Li Xiqing was even lower as he asked again, "Why?" However, this time, he was not asking Su Qianxi, but President Wang. Facing the gazes from all directions, Headmaster Wang braced himself and said, "This female student's style and values are not right. She has a rotten private life and has brought shame to the university. Kingstown University cannot afford to keep such a student." Hearing the accusations, Li Xiqing thought for a while, but his eyes became colder. Arching an eyebrow, he asked, "How come I didn't know about her private life?" From the moment they got married until now, other than the first day, she had always been clean. Principal Wang, however, did not know this. When he heard his question, he thought that he was curious and hurriedly explained, "Usually, these kinds of girls are best at deceiving people with their pure and innocent appearance. In reality, they are with several people at the same time. If not, how can they survive?" "You are talking nonsense." Su Qianxi was furious. He actually said it as if it was the truth. It was too disgusting. Huh? Li Xiqing chuckled and looked at President Wang with a sharp gaze. You know it better than I do. President Wang did not feel that he was in trouble and said matter-of-factly, "Of course. I've seen a lot of girls like this." "Mr. Li, do you know this campus belle?" A reporter asked, trembling. "May I ask, what is your relationship?" Chapter 156. Li Xiqing's words were cold, and his face was expressionless, as if he was just narrating something that was not a big deal. However, when the words fell into the crowd, it immediately caused a commotion. What the hell? F asterisk CK, F asterisk CK, F asterisk CK. Su Qianxi is Li Xiqing's wife? They are husband and wife. Are you serious? That's impossible. Incredulous voices sounded one after another, and Su Qianxi also looked at the indifferent man in front of her incredulously. Her heart, which she had already decided to seal, was split open by this sentence of his, revealing a throbbing heart. Once again, it started to beat slowly. "Mr. Li, is what you said true? Mr. Li, do you know that Su Qianxi's private life is so messy? Mr. Li, Su Qianxi has so many affairs. As her husband, do you have anything to say?" After coming back to their senses, the group of reporters seemed to be on steroids, and they kept bursting out incisive questions one after another. Li Xiqing's face became colder and colder. His eyes turned cold, and his body turned sideways, emitting a cold aura in all directions. The reporters gradually stopped talking. At that moment, everyone felt threatened. No one could tell what Li Xiqing was feeling or his expression at the moment. Su Qianxi was behind him, her heart pounding. At the same time, she was nervous and angry. Reaching out, she tugged at his shirt and whispered, "Let's go. These people are so disgusting. Who knows what they will write later?" Li Xiqing's rough hand covered the back of her hand. Feeling the warmth, Su Qianxi's heart skipped a beat. He was holding her hand in front of so many reporters, and it was a live broadcast. Su Qianxi was shocked and frightened. In her previous lifetime, he hated it when she mentioned that she was Mrs. Li. What did he mean now? She wanted to pull her hand back, but he held it down. He did not look back. Instead, he pulled her out from behind him and hooked her in front of him with his long arm. The explosive scene was captured by the flashing lights. Li Xiqing looked as usual, not noticing the excitement in the eyes of the reporters. He said indifferently, "Now, I will help you sort out the relationship between them." Slowly picking up his phone, he opened the web page and pointed at the photo of Su Qianxi holding Grandpa's arm. "The old man in the photo is my grandpa." In front of the TV, Captain Li was so angry that his beard was trembling. "You little brat, what do you mean by old man?" Li Xiqing had no idea that he had been scolded by Captain Li. He continued, "Su Zhenghua is her elder." Hearing this, the person who edited the press release felt uncomfortable and coughed lightly. He was just having a meal with an elder. Could it be that he would get involved with an elder? The young master of the Fu family, a class gathering. Most people knew who Fu Longbing was. Many reporters also knew about the class reunion, so they nodded. What about the last one? The man with the most close-ups and the most shots. There should be more to this, right? You should have nothing to say about this, right? Chapter 157. The scene was silent. However, Su Qianxi could not help laughing out loud. Retarded? Liu Yihan was so smart. If he was retarded, then as she smiled, she immediately felt a pair of cold eyes on her head. She immediately stopped smiling and looked down. The reporters were shocked. Some of them had already posted on Weibo, "God's reversal. Campus belle, Su works part-time to take care of her cousin with cerebral palsy." In front of the TV, Liu Yihan choked on his own saliva, coughing so hard that his face was red. When he finally calmed down, he turned his head and looked at his two best friends who were laughing so hard that they looked like retards. He roared, "What are you laughing at? Ha 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 ha. Retarded. What a shame. I can't take it anymore. Don't touch me. I feel like I'm going to die. Die of laughter. Ha 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 ha." Lu Yihan clenched his fists and stomped his feet. Bastardly Siqing. Ha 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 ha. Retarded Lu, it's your fault for being so close to his wife. If it were me, I would definitely make you look like you have AIDS. Lu Yihan kicked him and said, screw you. I will definitely teach this guy a lesson. After Qianqian's incident is over, I will hack his computer and put 16 tea seeds in it. Lu Yihan's best friend's eyes lit up. Begging for seeds. F***CK off. Lu Yihan punched him on the shoulder again. Are you done yet? A long time ago, these pictures came from two devices. One is the camera of a small detective agency, and the other is from a mobile device. Oh, it is our old classmate. Guess who it is? Lu Yinan? The guy looked surprised. How did you know? This kind of news is enough to ruin any girl. Except for Lu Yinan. I can't think of anyone else who hates Qianqian so much and is willing to spend so much money on the news. Lu Yihan sneered. His usual frivolous look was very serious at this moment. Isn't Lin wanting to get married? Since Lu Yinan has done this to Qianqian, how can we not make her pay? What do you want to do? You should go and ask Qianqian. She's the one who has the final say. A week passed. Every time he opened Weibo or read news, the headlines were all about campus belle, Su, Li Siqing, and Kong University promiscuous girls. Among them, the most eye-catching one was breaking headlines. The campus belle of Kingstown University is the secret wife of the nation's husband. In just a few days, Su Qianxi had fallen from an ordinary person to hell, and from hell to heaven. This was the first time he had experienced such ups and downs in both his previous and current lives. Through such an incident, Su Qianxi had received a lot of attention at school. In the past, it was because of her face, the face that was known as the campus belle. Now, it was because of Li Siqing. President Qinghua Wang was suspended, and soon, a new president was announced. Time passed quickly, and a week had passed. Soon, it was September 30th. Captain Li called Su Qianxi and Li Siqing back to the old house to prepare for the trip tomorrow. Chapter 158. Su Qianxi did not have any classes in the afternoon. When she received the call from Grandpa, Li Siqing was still at the company. When she returned to the old house alone, it was after 2 p.m. Carrying a simple suitcase home, Hansen saw Tang Minjing crying in the living room. In this world, Tang Minjing was the person Su Qianxi hated the most. Frowning, Su Qianxi chose to ignore her and was about to go back to her room. However, Tang Minjing did not let her. Looking at her with tears, she said, Su Qianxi, I heard you were coming back today, so I waited for you here. Qin Shuhua had always liked Tang Minjing. Sitting next to her, she comforted her. Hearing Tang Minjing's voice, her heart was broken. Su Qianxi, Tang Minjing is talking to you. Respond to her, Qin Shuhua said in a blaming tone. Lu Sa had already taken Su Qianxi's luggage and sent it to her room. Hearing Qin Shuhua's voice, Su Qianxi stopped and turned around. Siqing is coming back soon. I remember he said that you are not welcome to come to our house again. Go before he comes back. Tang Minjing heard that and burst into tears. Looking at Qin Shuhua, she said, Auntie, don't be afraid. I'm right here. Siqing is good at talking. He will not really mind that you are here. Besides, he only warned Mengxing not to come back, not you. Hearing that, Tang Minjing smiled, stood up, and walked to Su Qianxi. I'm sorry, Su Qianxi. You have been wronged recently. It was my cousin's fault. She bribed those websites to promote your photos. I have scolded her after I learned about it. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Then she cried even harder. Feeling disgusted, Su Qianxi looked away and said coldly, It's okay. It's all in the past, and I was not hurt. Forget it. You were not hurt, but Tang Minjing's tears fell. After Nin's grandpa, my grandpa, heard about this, he had a heart attack and was admitted to the hospital. He is about to die. He hopes that you can understand the apology of the Lu family and the Tang family. Oh, Su Qianxi looked at her. I see. Tang Minjing was overjoyed. You accepted it? She did not answer and turned to go back to her room. However, Qin Shuhua did not look satisfied. Qianxi, Let people go when possible. Su Qianxi stopped. Mom, if Siqing had not clarified for me a few days ago, I might have been drowned in the spit of all the netizens, and I was almost forced to drop out of school. If it were not for my mental endurance, I would have jumped off a building and committed suicide. Sophistry. Qin Shuhua was a little angry. Aren't you fine? Tang Minjing came to apologize to you out of goodwill. You should at least give her some face. Oh, who is she? Why did she have to give her face? With a sneer on her lips, she did not say it out loud. Mom, I'm a little tired. I'm going to rest first. Qin Shuhua wanted to say something, but she glanced at Captain Li, who had been standing at the door for a long time. She felt a little guilty. Dad. Chapter 159. Yes, Grandpa. Come on, I've collected a lot of information these days. Let's discuss the route tomorrow. Qin Shuhua felt a bit surprised, blinked, and said, Dad, are you going with them? In fact, Su Qianxi felt a bit strange. After all, the old man was 70 this year. How could he still be so healthy? Grandpa was really old but strong. Captain Li turned his head and stared at her. What's wrong? You don't want to give it to me? Qin Shuhua looked embarrassed. Of course not. Captain Li snorted and turned his head, thinking, what do you know? He was not doing this because he liked to play. He had something big to do. Thinking of the big thing he was about to do, he was in a good mood. Smiling, he took Su Qianxi to sit on the sofa. However, glancing at Tang Minjing, who was standing there like a display board, he was reluctant and said, Let's go to the study. Okay. Su Qianxi couldn't wait to see Tang Minjing, so she quickly went to the study with Grandpa. Although the old man was old, it could be seen that he was a very playful person when he was young. It was a good guide, and Su Qianxi had no objections after reading it. When she came down again, it was already past 5 p.m. Madam, it's time to finish dinner. Go to the pool and ask Li Siqing to come back for dinner. He's back. Yes, bring him some water. He's prone to dehydration after swimming. Okay, leave it to me. Su Qianxi took a bottle of mineral water and walked to the pool. The Tang family and the Li family were friends and neighbors for many years. This pool belonged to the Li family, but it was located between the Tang family and the Li family. It was not very big, only about 100 square meters. However, in Kingstown, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, it was rare to own. After swimming 2 laps, Li Siqing stopped by the side and broke out of the water. Wiping his face, he felt a shadow above him. Looking up, he saw Tang Minjing smiling at him, gentle and virtuous. She was wearing a sexy bikini with deep cleavage. Under the black lace swimsuit, it was a bit dazzling. If any other man had seen it, he would have been thrilled. However, the man in front of him was Li Siqing. After what happened in Australia, Li Siqing had a completely bad impression of her. His originally expressionless face turned even colder at this moment. What are you doing here? Tang Minjing kept her smile and said softly, Brother Siqing, I will swim with you. Then she jumped into the water and quickly came out of the water. Brother Siqing, I haven't completely mastered the backstroke you taught me last time. Can you teach me again? Li Siqing asked. Li Siqing's eyes lit up. When was the last time? Tang Minjing's smile froze. That was 4 years ago, when they were still in college. Li Siqing obviously did not remember. He swam toward the stairs and said coldly, Comprehend it yourself. I don't have time. Seeing this, Tang Minjing panicked. She jumped up and hugged him from behind, pressing her voluptuous breasts against his back. Brother Siqing, can you forgive me? I was too stupid last time. I will never do that again. Li Siqing's eyes lit up, and he looked at Tang Minjing. Chapter 160. Li Siqing pushed her away and turned around to face her. His eyes were deep and cold. Tang Minjing felt a bit guilty. Avoiding his eyes, she called carefully, Brother Siqing, you mean what happened in Australia? Or what happened to Su Qianxi a few days ago? Or, the cold voice paused for a moment. Is there something else you can't do? What happened a few days ago has nothing to do with me. It was my cousin who kept it from all of us. You don't need to explain to me. Then he turned around and left. Tang Minjing's eyes were suddenly filled with tears. Brother Siching, why did it become like this between us? Didn't you say it before? You said that you would always treat me as well as you treat your sister. Is this how you treat your sister? Tang Minjing's eyes were filled with tears. Li Siching did not respond to her and swam toward the stairs. Tang Minjing cried even louder, her chest heaving up and down as she yelled, "In this case, I might as well die." With his back to her, Li Siching only heard the sound of someone hitting the water, followed by the sound of water being poured. Shocked, he turned around and saw that Tang Minjing was already in the water. Li Siching's face darkened, and his eyes became even colder. Threatening? Acting? After watching in silence for a dozen seconds, Li Siching moved. He swam forward, grabbed her arm, and lifted her up. Tang Minjing coughed hard and wiped the water from her eyes, her face full of surprise. However, when she looked at him, she found that Li Siching looked even worse. "You will only make me hate you more." Tang Minjing's face turned pale. She sniffed, and the warm liquid flowed down her nose. I just want to go back to how we used to be. Have you forgotten that you used to be very nice to me? I was nice to Weiya and Shania, but they would not want to climb into my bed. It sounded harsh, but it was the truth. All Tang Minjing wanted was to climb into his bed and be his woman. But for a girl like Tang Minjing, it was like being stripped naked and thrown on the street for everyone to see. Tang Minjing looked at him and caught a glimpse of a white figure walking toward them. It was her. That was the woman who had destroyed all her dreams and given her all her pain. Tang Minjing made up her mind. In for a penny, in for a pound. He strode forward and threw himself at her. He did not expect her to do it so suddenly. When he realized what was going on, he was already in her arms. Tang Minjing put her hands and legs firmly on his body like an octopus. Her voluptuous breasts clung to his well-defined chest. She raised her head and kissed his lips. Holding a bottle of water in her hand, Su Qianxi was thinking about the trip tomorrow. Recently, the relationship between her and Li Siching had improved a lot. When Grandpa asked him to go with them, he did not say no. Although Grandpa had set them up, this was the first time in their lives that they would go on a trip together. Was this a honeymoon? She felt an inexplicable sweetness in her heart. She quickly walked to the side of the swimming pool. From afar, she saw two people, a man and a woman, entangled and kissing. When she was about to walk around him, he caught her arm. They looked up, and in a flash, their eyes met. "What's wrong with your eyes?" They were red, as if she had been crying. She pushed his hand away and shook her head. "It's none of your business." She sounded a bit impatient. Walking around him, she opened the door and walked out. Li Siching narrowed his eyes dangerously, a bit of confusion flashing in his cold eyes. Chapter 162. Su Qianxi left the room and was called to the dining room by Grandpa. When Li Siching arrived, it was already 10 minutes later. Li Siching's father was also home, and the family was happy. Captain Li was in a good mood. After greeting Li Siching's father, he looked at Su Qianxi and said kindly, "Qianqian, when will Grandpa have a great-grandson?" Su Qianxi was drinking soup. Hearing the old man's question without any warning, she almost choked. When she was thinking about how to answer, Li Siching wiped his mouth with a tissue and said slowly, "Soon." Captain Li was pleasantly surprised and asked excitedly, "Are you pregnant again?" However, Nanny Rong said that they had been sleeping in separate rooms. Did they get together again without Nanny Rong knowing? Ayaya, he knew it. A tiger doesn't have any grandchildren. This brat will be successful sooner or later. Not yet. Li Siching put down the tissue and said seriously, "I will try my best." Ahem. Su Qianxi felt she was choked by her own saliva and coughed heavily. Her eyes became wet and red. "What's wrong?" Li Siching turned his head and asked. Qin Shuhua looked at her son with a hint of rebuke in her eyes. She smiled and said, "You're shy. Can't you tell?" "Ha ha ha. We are family. No need to be shy." Li Siching's father was also in a good mood. "But you don't have to rush. You can think about it after graduation. Why wait until graduation? You will be a senior next year. You should start your internship and prepare for pregnancy, Qin Shuhua suggested. Hearing that, Li Siqing curled his lips. With a deep look in his eyes, he picked up the bowl of soup beside him and took a sip. He would try his best to plant a seed before the divorce contract expired. By then, she would not be able to escape even if she wanted to. There was still a long time. He would take it slow. At that time, no matter how much she liked Lu Yihan, he would not let her go easily. I'm full. Su Qianxi stood up, her cheeks and eyes slightly red. She hurriedly walked out and said, I'll go up first. Dad, Mom, Grandpa, enjoy. How can you give me a great-grandson if you eat so little? Grandpa was a bit dissatisfied, but she had already walked away and did not want to look back. Seeing Su Qianxi's figure disappeared, Lu Sa came over and whispered, I think the second young mistress is not in a good mood. She probably remembers the child. Young master, you should go and have a look. Li Siqing frowned, put down the bowl, and looked at his parents and grandpa. I'll go have a look. Go. It's our fault for forgetting. Qin Shuhua blamed herself. Mr. Li reached out and gently patted Qin Shuhua on the shoulder. It's okay. She will get over it. Li Siqing walked back to his room. As soon as he reached the door, he heard an extremely suppressed sob. Reaching out, Zhang Xian gently pushed open the door, and the sobbing sounds inside came to an abrupt stop. Then, Li Siqing saw a figure flash into the bathroom, and he heard the door slam. Did he really think of that child? He walked in slowly and closed the door behind him. Chapter 163. She wiped her tears and forced herself to calm down. What's up? I'm going to take a shower. It was hard to tell that she had cried. Li Siqing's eyes darkened. He did not expect this woman to be so good at acting. Thinking about it, he said in a low voice, I want to go to the bathroom. Come out first. There's a bathroom outside. Yes. It was silent for a while. About 10 seconds later, the door was opened from the inside. She deliberately lowered her head and wanted to brush past him, but he grabbed her hand. What? Su Qianxi's voice was a bit low, a bit hoarse, and a bit depressed. Sit with me. Then, regardless of whether she was willing or not, he pulled her to the bed and sat down. She was a bit reluctant, struggling with her hands, and her eyes became redder. Why are you crying? Li Siqing's voice softened. His rough hand wiped the tears from her eyes, and there was a touch of self-blame in his cold eyes. Don't cry. It would have been fine if Li Siqing did not say it. Once he did, she could not control herself. Tears flowed down her cheeks. She slapped his hand away and wanted to stand up and leave, but he pressed her down. It's not a big deal, he said. The child was gone, but she could have another one, as long as she was willing, However, in Su Qianxi's ears, it had a different meaning. Yeah, it's not a big deal. She curled her lips with a bitter smile. No matter in her previous lifetime or this lifetime, Li Siqing had always liked and loved Tang Menjing, and she was only his wife in name. That was all. She had been deceiving herself all along, hadn't she? Taking a deep breath, she gathered her courage and forced a smile on her face. Trying to be calm, she said, Mr. Li, let's get a divorce. Her words were like a bucket of cold water, putting out the fire in his heart. Li Siqing's face darkened, and the temperature around him suddenly dropped. That rare gentleness was all gone to heaven to feed the ghosts. Didn't you want to talk to me about this last time? Now, I'll fulfill your wish. Li Siqing's face was so cold that it was almost frozen. He suddenly tightened his grip on her hand. Impossible. Su Qianxi frowned in pain. Seeing his cold and dangerous expression, all the tears in her eyes disappeared. She looked at him and forcefully pried his hand away. Is there any meaning in continuing like this? He had his lover, his private life, and she, at best, was just a cannon fodder that he used to block his grandfather. Now, Mrs. Li liked Tang Menjing so much. If Tang Menjing could put in a good word for Mr. Li might be able to persuade him. No matter what, it would still be better than their current marriage with an empty shell, wouldn't it? Looking at her calm and serious look, Li Siqing's eyes became gloomy. Suddenly, his lips curled. There was sarcasm and danger in his eyes. Chapter 164. Li Xiqing strode past her and slammed the door shut. Bang! The loud sound made Su Qianxi's heart skip a beat, and she was short of breath. The commotion here had also spread outside. Under everyone's gaze, Li Xiqing walked out of the door. Qin Shuhua hurried over and asked, "Did you fight?" Su Qianxi shook her head, pursed her lips, and said that she was tired. She walked Qin Shuhua out the door. Li Xiqing did not come back for the rest of the night. The next morning, Lu San knocked on the door, helped her with her luggage, and took her things out. Su Qianxi's eyes were a bit swollen. Fortunately, it was not too serious. After a hot compress, she put on some light makeup, and it was completely gone. Captain Li did not seem to know that Li Xiqing and Su Qianxi had quarreled. He was in high spirits, discussing the travel strategy with Su Qianxi. He talked incessantly and excitedly. Grandpa's car was an old military Hummer, and the driver was the son of his adjutant when he was young. Su Qianxi knew them all. In her previous lifetime, they were the ones who accompanied her the most. But in this lifetime, she probably could not see them more than a few times. Feeling a bit disappointed, Su Qianxi was a bit absent-minded. "Qianqian, did you hear what I said?" Captain Li was a bit upset. "What?" Su Qianxi looked up and felt a bit guilty. "Sorry, Grandpa. I'm not feeling well." "Not feeling well? Just in a bad mood?" Captain Li snorted and looked at the time. "That boy is too much. He did not even text me at this time. Is he looking for trouble?" "Master, Mr. Li is already waiting for us at the airport." Captain Li heard that and snorted. "I knew it. Do I need you to remind me?" The driver obediently shut up, and soon the car was parked at the airport. After helping Captain Li and Su Qianxi with their luggage, the driver left. After going through a series of procedures, she entered the VIP lounge and saw Li Xiqing sitting on the sofa with his legs crossed and his eyes closed. Seeing that he was really there, Captain Li looked a bit more relaxed. "Boy, when did you come?" Li Xiqing opened his eyes, glanced at Su Qianxi, and then looked at Captain Li. He said quietly, "Just arrived." After that, he did not say anything else. It took more than 6 hours to fly from China to the Maldives. When they arrived, it was just afternoon. This trip was arranged by Captain Li. Even Li Xiqing could not interfere, let alone Su Qianxi. When they arrived at the hotel, she found a very serious problem. Grandpa had only booked one room for them. Thinking of sleeping in the same room with Li Xiqing for 6 days, Su Qianxi felt a bit conflicted. After Captain Li happily moved into his room, she went to the front desk and whispered in English, "Help me get an extra room." "I'm sorry, miss. There are no more rooms available at the moment. If you want to book an extra room, you'll have to line up now and wait until next week." "It can't be." "So popular?" Seeing her disappointed face, the receptionist smiled and said, "Miss, this is the most romantic island. The hotels around here have always been very popular. Normally, it is impossible to have an empty room at this time." Chapter 165. Su Qianxi suddenly felt uncomfortable. Holding the key card in her hand, she walked up the exquisite circular staircase and went to the 3rd floor. However, before she was summoned to her room, she ran into an acquaintance. "Miss Su." The familiar voice sounded a bit tentative. Hearing the voice, she paused and turned around. It was indeed Sheng Ximing. Su Qianxi was pleasantly surprised. "Hey, Uncle Sheng, you're also staying in this hotel? What a coincidence." Sheng Ximing was a bit surprised to hear her call him Uncle Sheng, but did not dislike it at all. He nodded and said, "Yes, what a coincidence. Which room are you staying in?" 388. "And you?" 268. "Yifan is here too. He is staying in 266. "Yifan? Song Yifan?" "Yes." Sheng Ximing nodded and smiled. "You just got here?" "Yes." Su Qianxi nodded. "Right, I forgot to save your business card. What's your number?" "I have your number. I'll call you." "Okay, I'll go find a room first. Let's have dinner together later." "Sure." Sheng Ximing did not expect her to answer so quickly. He smiled and said, "See you later." "Okay." Su Qianxi quickly turned around and went upstairs. Sheng Ximing looked at her back, then turned his head and saw a figure slowly walking towards him. "She is staying here. Are you ready?" "Yes." After finding her room, she opened the door. As soon as she entered, she was amazed by the style of the room. It was a luxurious suite with thick royal blue curtains. When she pulled them open, she saw a large floor-to-ceiling window with a sea view. Looking out, it was a vast expanse of blue. Seagulls were spreading their wings, and the sun was blazing. Below, on the golden beach, people were playing, and the scenery was picturesque. Turning his head, he saw a 2-meter-wide bed in the middle of the room. On the white sheet, there was a large layer of red rose petals, and in the middle was a heart made of pink petals. God, so extravagant and wasteful. Did every room in this hotel look like this? Wouldn't that be a huge loss? Su Qianxi saw the exaggerated petals and was speechless. She walked to the bedside table, dialed the internal line, and asked the hotel bellboy to bring her luggage up. Nanny Rong and Lu Sa took turns to pack, so they were well prepared. She opened her luggage and put them in the closet one by one. There were not only her clothes, but also Li Xiqing's. When she was almost done, she picked up the last piece of clothing and shook it. Suddenly, a few things fell. Taking a closer look, there were 2 square boxes with 2 eye-catching characters printed on them. Okamoto. He glanced down and saw the word size, super large. Looking further down, he discovered that there was also Durex. Almost all the sizes ranged from large to extra large. There was not even a medium size. How confident was he in Li Xiqing's size? Looking at the boxes, Su Qianxi's face suddenly became hot. As if she had caught a hot potato, she threw the 2 small boxes away. The sound of a card swiping came from the door. Su Qianxi froze and looked at the door incredulously. When Li Xiqing opened the door, he saw a small thing flying to his feet. Su Qianxi felt her head was buzzing. Running forward, she picked up the condom at Li Xiqing's feet and hid it behind her. Seeing her uncomfortable look, Li Xiqing's eyes flickered and asked, "What are you hiding?" Chapter 166. Su Qianxi's heart was pounding. Seeing his slightly puzzled look, she shook her head again and again. Seeing this, Li Xiqing's eyes immediately became a bit obscure, but he did not care and walked inside. Seeing him walking in, Su Qianxi breathed a sigh of relief, but she immediately realized that there was more inside. Li Xiqing walked in and immediately saw a whole layer of condoms under the suitcase. Light shot out from his cold eyes. Then, his eyes fell on Su Qianxi's face and glanced at her. Oh, it turns out to be daily products. Su Qianxi's face was even redder. She took out the small box in her hand and threw it into the suitcase, explaining awkwardly, I don't know if it was Nanny Rong or Lu Sa who put it there. It was not me. Li Xiqing did not speak again. His eyes fell on the big bed covered with rose petals, walked to the other side of the bed, and unceremoniously lifted the quilt. The red and pink petals flew up and then slowly fell down. From Li Xiqing's point of view, the girl in the white dress was standing in the rain of petals. Su Qianxi was stunned. Looking at the flying petals, she suddenly felt like she was in a dream. Soon, the petals fell all over the floor, and the room was full of fragrance. Li Xiqing saw the amazement in her eyes and felt a trace of satisfaction. Well, it was beautiful, but when he saw Su Qianxi's slightly puzzled look, he looked away and shook off the petals on the blanket. Looking down, he said, "If I'm tired, I'll rest for a while. I'll go down later." Then he strode forward, closed the suitcase, put on the cabinet, opened the wardrobe, took out a set of clothes, and walked into the bathroom. Su Qianxi was dazed. Was he cleaning the bed for her? But very quickly, he shook his head, and the corners of his lips curled up in a mocking smile. He probably just did not want to see that dazzling pink heart. Taking a deep breath, Su Qianxi patted the white dress on her body, opened the wardrobe, and took out a set of loose pajamas. She changed in the room and lay directly on the bed. When he came out of the shower, she was already sound asleep. Taking a dry towel to dry his hair, he inadvertently glanced at Su Qianxi's cell phone on the bedside table, and a pleasant ringtone rang. It was an unknown number, and the caller ID was Connecticut. Vaguely feeling that the number was a bit familiar, Li Siqing frowned and picked up the phone. "Hey, Miss Sue, come down and have a meal with me. I'm sitting by the window in the hall. I can see the sea view outside." After a moment of silence, he asked, "Are you also in the Maldives?" In addition, from his tone, he must have known that Su Qianxi was also in this hotel. Could it be that they had arranged this beforehand? No, Su Qianxi didn't even like him, so she should not like this kind of guy. Did he follow her? Li Siqing's eyes darkened, and his aura became even colder. Such an old man was almost old enough to be her father. Was he sure that he could eat this young grass? Sheng Shiming suddenly heard a male voice and thought that he had called the wrong number. After checking to make sure it was Su Qianxi's number, he asked, "Are you Miss Sue's husband? Where is she?" Chapter 167. Sheng Shiming suddenly did not know what to say. He did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that Li Siqing was hostile to him. He guessed that Su Qianxi was asleep, but he could have just said in bed or asleep. Yet he said on my bed. This sentence made people think too much. Don't misunderstand. What is it? Li Siqing's cold voice could be heard over the phone. No matter how thick-skinned Sheng Shiming was, he knew that Li Siqing did not want him to call Su Qianxi. So he explained, "I don't mean anything else. I just want to, don't call me if you have nothing to say." His cold voice did not fluctuate much, with a strong sense of Li Siqing's style. Immediately, the call was hung up. Sheng Shiming had never been humiliated like this before, feeling a bit embarrassed. Looking at the man in front of him, he sighed, "It seems that it will be difficult to see her this time." Hanging up the phone, he glanced at Su Qianxi, who was sleeping soundly, unaware of what was going on around her. She was like a little pig, not even waking her up. With a smile, Li Siqing looked at Su Qianxi's phone again. After putting the number into the blacklist, he put it back in its original position. Su Qianxi was woken up by hunger. The Maldives was 3 hours later than China. When she woke up, it was already past 7 p.m., which meant it was past 10 p.m. in the capital. No wonder she was so hungry. Jumping out of bed, Su Qianxi quickly washed up and was ready to go downstairs to find food. Picking up her phone, she saw a WeChat message from Grandpa. "Qian, I am downstairs in the dining room. Come down with your baby grandson." Puffed. "Kiss my precious second grandson." Li Siqing's face, which looked like he wanted to freeze the whole world, did not deserve such a cute name. She checked the time. It was 10 minutes ago, so Grandpa should still be there. Walking down the circular staircase, she saw a lot of people in the hall, which was very lively. Her phone vibrated, and she received a message from Grandpa. "I am at the end of the hall by the window." When he found the place, he saw his grandfather waving at him. Su Qianxi also waved at Captain Li and quickly walked down the stairs. However, when she was on the last 2 steps, her feet tilted and she fell down. She exclaimed, "Be careful." A man's voice rang out. Then a large hand caught her. Su Qianxi was propped up. After seeing the face of the man in front of her, she was dazed. Her eyes flashed with surprise, and then she blurted out in disbelief, "Bo Xiao." Bo Xiao was a little surprised. Looking at the woman in front of him, who was obviously a complete stranger, he nodded slightly in a gentlemanly manner. "I am. Of course I know him." Bo Xiao was the youngest and most famous musician in the world. He came from a mysterious noble family, but his background was unfathomable. If she remembered correctly, Bo Xiao did not become famous until 3 years later. With his amazing song, he was much more popular than Song Yifan. How could she meet such a person? "You know me?" Hearing the question, Su Qianxi subconsciously wanted to nod, but immediately shook her head and said firmly, "No." Before she finished her sentence, she felt a strange atmosphere around her. Looking sideways, she saw a tall figure walking toward her with a cold aura that was hard to ignore. Chapter 168. Li Siqing walked over and glanced at Su Qianxi with his cold eyes. Soon his gaze fell on Bo Xiao. "Thank you, sir." Li Siqing reached out a hand to him. "If it were not for you, my wife would have fallen." Su Qianxi felt flattered. He was actually thanking her? However, Bo Xiao had already heard the key point in his words. Wife. This man was warning him. Bo Xiao curled his thin red lips and gently shook Li Xiqing's hand. You're welcome, Mr. Li. You know me? Mr. Li is very famous. If I did not know you, I would be too ignorant. Bo Xiao. Li Xiqing. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. In just a few words, Su Qianxi inexplicably felt a strong sense of tension. Looking at Li Xiqing and then at Bo Xiao, Su Qianxi's stomach growled. The eyes of the two men almost fell on her at the same time. Su Qianxi smiled awkwardly and blushed. I'm hungry. Li Xiqing curled his lips, put an arm around her shoulders, and said, Let's eat. Su Qianxi's heart suddenly skipped a beat, and she stared at him with her eyes wide open. Inexplicably, she felt a bit uncomfortable. He was really good at holding a woman. She wondered what he looked like when he held Tang Minjing. Feeling a bit sad, Su Qianxi quickly looked hurt. Bo Xiao clearly caught all her emotions and turned his gaze to the man who was obviously cold and indifferent. Li Xiqing did not see the change in Su Qianxi's expression. Meeting Bo Xiao's eyes, he nodded and said, Goodbye. Then he put his arm around Su Qianxi and walked in the direction of Grandpa. Bo Xiao looked at their backs, his dark brown eyes full of interest. Li Xiqing's wife turned out to be such a delicate and beautiful little thing. However, it seemed that this couple did not look like a couple. It seemed that Deng and Su Qianxi actually did not feel much harmony with each other. Instead, they looked like two people who were forcibly tied together. Interesting. Young master, Madam wants you to go over. Yes, coming. Before she reached Grandpa's seat, she couldn't help it anymore. Lifting his arm, she ducked under his arm and ran away. Li Xiqing clearly felt her repulsion. Clenching his fists, his eyes darkened, he followed her. Sitting in the seat in front of Grandpa, Su Qianxi's eyes lit up when she saw the variety of dishes. She was starving. You must be hungry. I ordered all your favorites. Eat more. Thank you, Grandpa. Su Qianxi smiled happily and stabbed a piece of cake with her fork. But just as he was about to put it into his mouth, a large hand snatched it away. Have some milk first. He put a glass of warm milk in front of her. Su Qianxi's little face suddenly became gloomy, and she hated him even more. Glaring at him, she gulped down the milk, grabbed the fork in his hand, and took a bite. Eat slowly, Li Xiqing said again. No one is fighting with you. Damn it, the ghost won't go away. Su Qianxi slowed down and poked the cake in front of her, looking unhappy. If Tang Minjing was eating with him, he would definitely not care so much. However, she was really hungry, not eating. Chapter 169. Half of it was true, and the other half was not. In the past, when she saw him, she would feel that he was a feast for the eyes. Now, it was still the same face, the same figure, and the same cold expression. However, thinking of that day when she saw him kissing Tang Minjing, as well as that phone call, she felt disgusted. What was worse was that he was talking about this, and that while she was eating, which made her feel even more annoyed. He did not seem to be disliked at all. Frowning, he put a piece of barbecue on her plate. Stop it. His voice was cold, but the two words that came out of his mouth sounded like he was coaxing a child. Su Qianxi felt that there was something in her stomach, and she could not let it go. Glancing at the old man who was laughing happily, she turned her grief into appetite. Eat. After eating and drinking, Grandpa stretched, indicating that he was going to rest. Su Qianxi had just woken up and was very energetic. After Old Master Li went upstairs to rest, he stood up and left. The location of the hotel that Captain Li had booked was very good. Not far from the entrance was the beach. On both sides of the long wooden bridge, warm yellow lights were shining. Couples were coming and going, holding each other's hands and saying the most romantic words in various languages. Su Qianxi felt envious. It was indeed a honeymoon place. Taking off her shoes, she stepped into the sea barefoot. The cold water kept surging up, reaching her ankles. The sea breeze was salty, and many men and women were running back and forth on the beach. The cheerful and childlike laughter of children kept coming. Su Qianxi felt that her soul had been cleansed. At this moment, her mind was empty, without any distractions. It had been a long time since she had been so relaxed. Chapter 170. Happy. Hearing the cold voice, Su Qianxi stiffened and turned her head. Li Xiqing was wearing casual, loose clothes, looking a bit casual. But between his brows, there was still an indescribable coldness. With both hands in his pockets, he turned his head and looked over. Under the blazing, warm yellow light, his deep, pitch-black eyes seemed to shine with an indescribable starlight. One look, and she was attracted. Su Qianxi was a bit dazed. His eyes were like extremely attractive magnets, constantly luring her to get closer. Every time, she had no way to escape. When their eyes met, Su Qianxi clearly sensed that his eyes were getting darker and darker. Quickly looking away, she suppressed her racing heartbeat and was about to put on her shoes. But the moment she turned around, a rough and large hand grabbed her arm. "Mr. Li, can I help you?" Su Qianxi could hear the nervousness in her voice. Hearing Mr. Li, Li Xiqing frowned and tightened his grip on her arm. He said in a low voice, "Want to talk?" Although it was a question, he did not mean to ask for an answer. Su Qianxi was pulled to sit down by him. The sea breeze gently swept over, lifting her long hair and hitting his face. The tip of his nose was filled with a light scent of shampoo. Brushing aside the strand of black hair, he casually played with it. It was as smooth as silk. Well, it felt good. "Why are you afraid of me?" Li Xiqing asked. Su Qianxi did not expect that his first question would be this. Afraid of him? Afraid? Of course. When she first married him, she was not afraid. Everyone said that Li Xiqing was cold-blooded and ruthless, but she did not take it seriously. Again and again, she provoked him and stepped into his forbidden zone. Although it was partly because of Tang Minjing, Su Qianxi knew that it was because of her innocent and naive personality. Later, he became more and more disgusted with her. Every time he saw her, he would treat her coldly. Even in front of so many people, he did not give her any face. Later, when she saved him from the fire and disfigured his face, he mistook her for the culprit behind the kidnapping and arson. He did not give her any leeway. Other than sparing her life and her status, he had taken everything away from her. At that moment, she was truly afraid. This fear lasted for 3 years. For the past 3 years, with her scarred face, every time she saw him, she would consciously hide far away. Inferiority and longing. At that time, she was so envious of Tang Minjing. He envied her for being able to stand with him so openly. He envied her for being the best candidate for Mrs. Li in everyone's eyes. He, on the other hand, was destined to be a lonely shadow in the dark world, unseen and unconcerned. Now that she was reborn, she had developed a habit of being afraid to face him, afraid to approach him. He was the deepest desire in her heart. She wanted him, but she didn't dare to. She could not afford it. She nodded and then shook her head. Her expression was a bit complicated, looking up at his impeccably handsome face. She could talk to him so calmly face to face. Everything was like a dream. Seeing her nod and then shake her head, he asked again, "Am I scary?" She nodded again and again. Li Xiqing looked out to the sea, and his cold voice was almost blown away by the sea breeze. He said, "It's very unfair for you to do this." Chapter 171. Su Qianxi looked at his cold profile, obviously not understanding what he meant. He looked at her. Under the lights on both sides of the river, Su Qianxi clearly saw the deep meaning in his eyes. "You were not like this when you were with Liu Yihan." The sea breeze blew, and the man's hair swayed gently. Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes, but his eyes were very firm, looking at her. Su Qianxi was caught off guard by his words. Her heart skipped a beat. Out of reflex, she blurted out, "He is different. He is my good friend." "What about me?" He looked at her. "What am I?" "Yes, what was he?" Su Qianxi suddenly did not know how to define the man in front of her. Husband? But she clearly knew that it was impossible for them to be together, didn't she? She liked him, and she loved him. However, there was still Tang Minjing between them, wasn't there? Husband? She was afraid that if she said this word, she would humiliate herself. Looking down, Su Qianxi was silent. Li Xiqing's eyes were cold. Seeing her obvious hesitation and thought, he couldn't help but feel depressed. He just wanted an identity in her heart. Was it really that hard? Su Qianxi's phone vibrated in her pocket, and a beautiful piano music rang. It was Elegy. Li Xiqing looked down and immediately saw 2 words, Yihan. No last name, just a simple name, Yihan. And his, if you remember correctly, she didn't even have a name in the note she gave him. Instead, she gave him a word that could not be more unfamiliar, Mr. Li. Such a gap, such a treatment. Li Xiqing's heart sank. Su Qianxi did not notice his slight change and directly picked up the phone. Hello. Hey, I have good news for you. Our Qian, Lu has been chosen by a big company. Have you heard of Wanwei Technology? They're going to invest in us. Hearing that, Su Qianxi was dazed, and then she was overwhelmed with ecstasy. Really then? Before Su Qianxi finished her words, she was pushed by a strong force and exclaimed. When she came back to herself, she had been pressed on the beach. Looking at him who suddenly pushed her down, she was inexplicably panicked. Her hands were tied behind her back, and one of her hands was still holding onto her phone. What's wrong, Qianqian? Where is he? Hello. Lu Yihan's voice came from the microphone. She wanted to answer, but seeing his obviously unhappy face, her heart skipped a beat. She stammered, Mr. Li, what's wrong? Li Xiqing's eyes were always cold, but at this moment, there was unspeakable anger, as if it wanted to jump out, burn her, and swallow her. Surprise. What was this man trying to do? Her hand hurt a little. She tried to move, but he pressed her even harder. I am your husband. At least for now. The phone was snatched away, and after hanging up, it was thrown to the side. She frowned and exclaimed, What are you doing? The cold touch on her lips was smooth, her eyes widened, looking at the man in front of her incredulously. Panic, helplessness. What was he doing? In less than a second, she realized what was going on and struggled. Chapter 172. Her legs were clamped by his firm and strong legs. Although they were separated by clothes, Su Qianxi could still clearly feel the strong lines of his body. His hot breath was on her face. Her lips were firmly kissed, and her hands were clipped above her head. She could not break free or escape. Li Xiqing's movements were a bit jerky as he pried her lips open, looking for her soft tongue. His movements were rough and a bit punishing. His kiss was extremely aggressive. Su Qianxi's hands and feet gradually became weak, and her breathing became shorter and shorter. Everything in front of her was white, and she could not tell north from south anymore. It seemed that her whole world was only her, only him. It felt like a century had passed. Su Qianxi felt a bit dizzy. When she was released, fresh air poured in, making her suddenly sober. Gasp! Su Qianxi gasped, having never tried to suffocate like this. Her heart was beating so fast that she almost thought she was flying. It was so crazy that it was scary. Li Xiqing's breathing was a bit rapid. His hands grasped her hands tightly, and he bent down to look at her. Her delicate facial features and porcelain skin seemed to be covered with a light layer of pink. Her black eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist, dazed and charming. Li Xiqing clamped her down, his eyes gleaming. His voice was low and hoarse as he said, If another man were to treat you like this, would you obediently let him kiss you? Li Xiqing's eyes were cold, and his voice was low and hoarse. Su Qianxi suddenly felt humiliated and stopped breathing. She tried to lift her hands, but was firmly held down by him, unable to move. Staring at his lustful eyes, Su Qianxi sneered, What about you? You can be in heat for any woman who kisses you? Li Xiqing's eyes narrowed slightly, and his face approached her. He said hoarsely, Unfortunately, I have only been in heat for you. What about Tang Minjing? Su Qianxi almost blurted out, but after saying it, she wanted to bite her tongue off. Why did it sound so much like jealousy? God, she did not mean that. She really did not. Although she did find Tang Minjing disgusting, and annoying, she was definitely not jealous. No. Seeing her obviously dodging regretful eyes, Li Xiqing curled his lips slightly, so light that she almost thought it was an illusion. If I had any feelings for her, you wouldn't be able to marry into the Li family. Grandpa, who can force me to do something I don't want to do? Su Qianxi's voice stopped, and her heart suddenly skipped a beat. Is he trying to explain to me? However, she clearly heard, biting her lower lip. She gazed at him and said, I clearly saw you and Tang Minjing kissing in the swimming pool at home. Swimming pool? Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. You saw it? Yes. So you don't have to lie to me. Why would I lie to you? Li Xiqing interrupted her, looking dangerous. That time she did, but I pushed her away. I don't like her in the past, now, and in the future. The powerful words made Su Qianxi speechless. Her first reaction was, he's lying to me. However, why would Li Xiqing lie to her? He was such a proud person that he would not lie to her, right? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.